Well, like it or not, unfortunately, we are now stuck back on waking up at 3 in the morning trying to catch every single game from the 6th Invitational. But we're here for Group Stage Day 3, and APAC did some things, G2 didn't do some things. There's plenty of stuff to go over. Hi, I'm Jacob. He is Jesse. Welcome back to the 6th Invitational Post Show. It's good to have you with us. Jesse, 11 and a half hours on stream today with Crux. Did I see that tweet right?
That was, you know what, I exaggerated. It was closer to 11 hours and 15 minutes, but I thought it'd let... Yeah, I'll just blame it on the fact that I was live for 11 hours and 15 minutes.
That is 11 hours straight of nothing but Siege. How is your brain not mush?
Honestly, I always feel better on these days than I do like the shorter days. I don't know what it is, but just something about waking up at 2 in the morning and being able to enjoy my coffee, watching Siege. There's something chill and relaxing about it. I don't know.
That's true. I guess it just depends on how much sleep you were able to get the night before, which for me
100%.
Definitely was not very much. But we really can't complain that much about sleep because we do have a guest on the show, and he's actually been in Paris the entire time getting all of this stuff presented and casted because he's there. He's doing his job. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Invitational Post Show, our very first guest, Mr. Harry Demo Dempster. You're asking here, buddy. How are you?
All right, boys. Good to be here. I've seen you guys are in a bit of a post show, and hey, you boys know me. I'm a sucker for a podcast.
One half of On the Flank decided to show up, even though he's fresh off of a work shift. First of all, how tired are you right now? I gotta ask.
I'll be honest, because I know I have a very late start tomorrow, so I can afford to come on here.
Sweet. So nothing in terms of like post-broadcast exhaustion. It's not kicking you in the teeth or anything crazy.
I'm good. I mean, this is pretty early, I think, for what I'm used to. I mean, I've been like casted to like 2 a.m. before. Like, it's not too bad, really. It is. I'm good. I'm feeling good.
Sweet. I think it's I thought it was dope because it was like you, and then there's one other person that actually wants to see if he can't jump on, who's also on the SI cast and Cure9. But the one thing I'm thinking is time zone's probably going to be a pain in the ass. You're on broadcast for however long, and I know how crazy it is for the NAL sometimes, even if we're not on camera, to just be like, I don't know if I wanted to like do anything else as soon as the show is done. But I think you've got the stamina, so I'm certainly not going to get in your way. Happy to have you on, dude.
Yeah, I'll be good, and hopefully I can now put my emotions across. I try to stay as non-biased as I can, but yeah, that's why I like this kind of stuff, because I can actually say what I'm thinking.
I'm not happy that we brought the Euro along right on the day that North America kind of shit the bed. I'm gonna be honest with you.
No, we could have brought him back. North America shit the bed. DZ shit the bed. Come on now, you only got one North American team.
The one team in the group. Yeah, that's just how it is.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's true. But at least on your end, from the SI experience in quarantine and doing everything from a hotel, how's everything been for you so far? Just out of like basic curiosity, like working conditions, trying to get everything scheduled from caster to caster. I've heard is kind of a clusterfuck behind the scenes, but any detail you want to regale us with?
I mean, I think everything's been pretty good. Everyone was really like great at getting the information supplied, because obviously we had to have like a lot of paperwork filled out and stuff like that to get in here in the first place. So in terms of from my end, I had no problems whatsoever, no hiccups. So yeah, I got here pretty smoothly in last week. It's already been a week since I got here, so it doesn't even feel like a week. So yeah, got here. Hotel is, from what I've seen of the hotel, which has been pretty limited to my bedroom. It's been great. My bedroom's pretty sick. Obviously, there's been a big talk about the food situation, which, sure, people...
How much of that can you relate to?
I don't relate to any of it. I'm happy with the food. I can't complain. I really can't. I think some people are just a little bit over-exaggerating how bad it is, but it's not bad. It's good.
So you're stealing the bread rations, and you're bringing them to your room, and that's why nobody else has any bread. I got it.
I don't even eat the bread. I'm trying to stay a little bit on the diet still as well. I'm still trying to lose a few pounds, so I'm trying to stay away from the carbs as much as I can.
I see. You get all the caviar, the good food, the meat, that you just throw the bread out. That's
pretty
tough.
much, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, good God. Nothing in terms of like your room getting shit on with a bad lamp, a bad sink, a broken window, none of that jazz.
They're on a different floor, so it must just be the talent floor is just the good one. So I don't know. Everything that like what I've heard, I've had no issues whatsoever. I cannot complain.
Gotcha. And just for my end, from like a technical point of view, because I'm a sucker for production stuff, is it just like are there 2 desks? I'm assuming there are 2, like one for 2 different caster pairs, and it's all presumably in like the same like room area with a couple different connections. What's the setup looking like?
The way we have it set up, so there's 14 people, which is obviously caster pairs. So that's 7 caster pairs that we have. We have Stream A and Stream B. We have 4 casting duos on Stream A, and then 3 casting duos on Stream B. 1 EU talent on Stream B is there for the whole day, and then you have the APAC duo, because we have 2 APAC duos. They would do the morning shift, but it is what it is. Right. It depends what time zone you're in. And then you have the NA duo would then come and do the later shifts. So APAC in the morning, NA at night, and EU don't get a choice. You have to do the entire day. So that's how it's set up.
Nice.
And usually it's like rotating. So if you're in Stream A, like for example today, it was myself and Ollie, and then you had Tim and Des, and it would be they'd be on the desk for like 4 games, and then we can't do 4 games. So it's like you just kind of split it around. Obviously with COVID and that, you have to be like careful with the precautions, but it's been a pretty good system. So yeah, overall pretty good.
I was always curious about how they were going to get to working with both remote and people on site at the same time, because in the back of my head, I knew that when they were trying to work it all together, there was no chance that they were going to be able to do like a desk that was going to be like one person like on site, and then the desk itself was going to be remote. I figured it would be if you're on the analyst desk, everyone there has to be somebody who's situated on site, and there's no chance that you can rotate somebody back in or out. The cool part about everybody being remote, if that's what they ended up doing, probably would have been you can mix and match the talent that you want. Like host can come in, the desk can be different, the caster pairs can be different. But I'm wondering if for playoffs it just turns into everybody who's there has to do desk work, and then everyone who's remote has to cast. But
I have no idea. So we've heard nothing. So it's literally just day by day. Like, so we'll see what happens at the end, and yeah, just go from there pretty much. But I do know, like, obviously Milosh is going to be flying in, not to. I think he comes in like maybe this weekend. So yeah, he'll be here. Obviously, Desco. So again, Jacob, I have no idea. So, but we'll just play it as it is.
Hey, I'm asking crazy questions just because this is it's something that some people don't give a flying fuck about. But I'm over here going the scheduling, the technical, the production side. I have too many questions sometimes for my own good. So.
I cannot complain for the conditions that we're at, which of course COVID shitty situation for everyone.
Yeah,
I think we've pulled it off pretty well, if I do say so myself.
Good stuff, and you're having fun with it too, which is ultimately the better part about it, which I'm happy for.
It's been fun. It's been good.
You want to get to review, Jesse? Should we try to knock all this stuff out, because we got a butt ton of games that we got to go through. Demo, actually, out of curiosity, were there I wasn't following each game that each caster pair or each analyst pair ended up having. Which ones did you have on the day?
I had, looking at that list, God, I can't. Is it bad if I can't remember? Okay, I think I had Cyclops, Liquid, and then I had Liquid Furia, and then I had FaZe, Cyclops, and then Team 1 Furia.
Oh man, you got some ass games then. I'm sorry, Demo. I didn't realize.
Overall, yeah, some of those definitely could have been a little better. It seems to me
that me and Ollie have kind of missed like a lot of like the big games for some reason. I don't know. We've kind of had like the 7-2s and like a 7-0 we had with Parabellum Makers, Parabellum Oxygen. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully, to be fair, I do know that we have BDS Liquid on day 5. So I mean, it can only be better.
All
for
right.
Me. So
there we go. At least one barn burner on the cards.
Yeah.
That's sick. All right, well, if we want to take a look at the standings real quick, just to see how Group A shook out after day 2, everything, I don't want to say got turned upside down. Everything really stayed the same. Team Empire still sticking up in the first place position with 2 wins under their belt, and BDS, for their own part, went undefeated. They got 3 dubs, which means they are both tied technically in first at the moment. I think which one of them is number 1 or number 2 at this point genuinely doesn't matter all that much, just because they both are blazing past the rest of the field. Team 1 and Team Liquid both had good showings. Liquid had a surprise defeat to CAG, which not very many people saw coming, and FaZe Clan, I think their stock also kind of went out the window after 2 losses today. So I think for like the top half of Group A today, it was only a little bit shaky based on APAC kind of coming out of the woodwork and surprising some people.
Yeah, I think like there aren't really any changes, but like what really happened was things got solidified, right? Because we've now seen 2/3 of the games that are going to get played for Group A rather than 1/3. I think we can start saying who's going to get top 4, who's going to end up in the lower bracket, and who might get relegated. The big thing for me is that like Empire, BDS seem like locks, and then the only teams that I think have realistic chances of breaking into that top 4 would be FaZe and maybe Furia. Furia's got a really tough schedule, I think, for their last day. They play some of the top teams. They play Empire, FaZe, and Dark Zero, which, like, Dark Zero kind of are trolling, but, like, Empire and FaZe, I think, are teams that they will lose to more likely than not. FaZe have a bit easier of a time. They play teams like Team 1, Furia, obviously, so I think they might sneak up and knock Team 1 out. It really just depends how that game goes, but, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to call kind of where we're going to end up by the end of it. And of course, CAG and G2 seem like the only teams that might get relegated, with obviously G2 holding that tiebreaker. It seems more likely they'll be safe, but they're not out of the woods yet.
And then the story with G2 and CYCLOPS down there too, I think both of them are definitely guaranteed out of contention now for upper bracket, if I'm doing my math correct, just based on like how many other points they can get and looking at the teams that are above them right now. And I want to say both Cloud9 and Dark Zero also, I don't think can make upper bracket.
Realistically, no. Dark Zero, Cloud9, G2, CAG, it's not happening. But mathematically, I think they could, right? Because you can get 3 points, you jump up to 4, win a tiebreak between Liquid and 1. Like, mathematically, you probably could work it out, but like, realistically, no. I think it's probably, you could draw the line between 6 and 7 over who has realistic chances of making it.
Which is a little embarrassing considering I was putting Dark Zero. I think you and I were both really hoping DZ could still make an upper bracket run, but I think at this point we're like, I think when we were talking about it yesterday, when we were looking over like the first 2 days, I think we had DZ looking at top 4 originally. Yeah.
Definitely did not put them second. Don't go look at my tweets. Thank you. I gotta delete something real quick.
I did say they would qualify through upper bracket in my original predictions, but then I didn't foresee them losing to Brazil outright.
I mean,
ultimately,
Brazil coming into this competition where, I mean, obviously, like, you can fair enough say, oh yeah, Liquid, FaZe, they're the teams you look for. But I mean, like, Furia, Team 1, showing up massively in this group has been something that a lot of people didn't expect. I think that's the biggest thing, is Team 1 and Furia especially. They've been the 2 teams who have really went in hard to this event. Team 1 especially. I could definitely see Team 1 finish top 4, 100%. I think Alamau right now is on a hot streak, up there with the likes of, obviously Joystick at the moment is the biggest player.
Yeah, seriously.
But he's still keeping up. Alamau has had great moments, and he's still got another day to show us how good he is.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Team 1. I think especially because like Team 1 Furia, if you look at the players on this roster, like these are some really young guys out of Brazil that have like really not gotten to show their stuff. You might be thinking like, oh, I know Team 1, they've been here for years, but it's a totally different roster, right?
True.
The old Team 1 got picked up by MIBR, blah blah blah. So these players are more or less very new. Maybe they started last year, a couple of them. Some of them are brand new out of Challenger League, just picked up off of CL squads that didn't get promoted. So like, it's crazy that such young players out of Brazil are showing up and having a huge impact on the international stage. It's awesome to see.
Especially when Team 1, I think, was a team that we didn't peg to do too high, but it was also like there's 6 teams coming out of Brazil, and to figure out like how like the bottom 3 teams from that region were kind of going to stack up, it was like them, it was Furia, and ultimately it might have been like MIBR or NIP, simply based on how competitive Brazil has been. So for Team 1 to really show their true colors and show their stripes over teams like Furia, especially today with the last game that we had on the A stream, which was 7-3. God, they just look so good. They look good, and no one was expecting them to, and I love it.
It's crazy too, like just because from a historical point of view, I feel like we've always talked about how like Europe is like the deepest region, like the top of NA, the top of Latin America can contend. But now like you look at the scene, it's like LATAM is far and away the deepest region. Like you take the 5th best team from each region, and LATAM's gonna slam them. Like there's like 2 good European teams, there's like 3 good North American teams, there's like 0 good APAC teams. I mean, and there's 6 good Brazilian teams. Like what? It's awesome. Sign of the times.
All right, you had A stream, I had B stream. We switched some things up this time around between Jesse and myself. But one thing that also is kind of what I don't know if it's necessarily important, but I did notice it. Jesse had all of the CYCLOPS, all of the G2, and all of the Furia games on A stream today, and the only team that I got all of was Dark Zero, and towards the end of the day, that was just a depression fest for me being NA. So you want to start from the top?
Well, we started off with a banger of a game, BDS G2. G2 started off hot. You're defending on Master on Chalet. You win the round, and then they lost 7 in a row. BDS just looked masterclass on their pushes. They really did slam G2 in a lot of these rounds. And I think again, it was throw 2, right? Like G2 mentally, one thing would go wrong in a round and the entire round was lost. There was no coming back from it. There was no making a play. It felt like a lot of the times like BDS would get that opening pick and G2 would be on defense and G2 just like wouldn't try anything to ever like get that back. They would lose advantage and just kind of accept it, give up, play really defeated, I think, the whole time. And like that seemed like all of G2 the day one as well. G2 had a depressing game. And thank God that didn't spiral into the second game because this could very well have been G2 getting last in the group, and it still might be.
That's a 0.28 for Uno. What? Is that the single lowest rating we've seen so far through groups?
No, we had a 1 and 9 today from KDS.
Did we? Oh, okay, never mind.
So.
That's still bad. Here's a question I had though. What was the rumor that I was seeing about BDS just kind of being let to plant kind of wherever they wanted on every bomb site? Like it wasn't even that it was like consistent. It was just the G2 were allowing them to go in and do what they wanted.
There were some really weird kind of dumb rounds. I think it was round 6. So it's a games hold, right? And because it's like some really like weird aggression from G2, they like flank up solar stairs. They come all the way to the back and they down the kit and piano, right? Gunfights go out. It's a 2v2. We end up with the attack like top library stairs in the library area with 2 players. The defense are like master, right? So G2 are like playing master solarium with the 2. Bomb site is bar games. And so BDS literally just walk in, they pick up the kit, they say, thank you, G2, we appreciate you not peeking us and stopping us from picking up this kit. They run back to the bomb site, they plant, and then they just like play rat spots, and G2 have to like retake, and they have no intel at all. And it's like, there were a couple different rounds like that where, again, G2 would have some sort of a huge advantage, and then BDS would just like plant, and G2 were like, that's fine. There was another one where it was like, it was Office and Master was the bomb site. And it was like a 2v4 or 2v3 or something. And G2 just took Solarium. They walked in. They planted just inside the Solarium door. One guy on the master bedroom shut down the entire, retake attempt from G2. And so it was really, it's Chalet. The plant's always going to be a big focus on that map. And I think BDS really exposed that.
That's a pain. Looking at what G2 was expected to do coming in and then starting off day 2 with what would then be their 4th consecutive loss, I think. Because they'd claw 1 back later, but they'd lose 2 more on the day. So the fact that they're starting off everything against BDS and only were able to get 1 round back, that in and of itself just kind of spells doom and gloom for the rest of their day if it's going to be that bad.
I feel sad. I do feel sad. Like G2, obviously, I'm pretty biased towards them. You know, it's just the way it is. Like, oh, you guys have your favorites. Every caster, if a caster says they don't have a favorite, they're lying. Everyone has a favorite to a team, and it's G2 who are the team for me. I mean, anyone British is my team. So that's just the way it is. And yeah, I don't know. I really thought they were going to come in this event and just smash out the park. You know, I know the potential that the guys have. You look at them in EOL, sure, didn't go to plan, but whenever they look good, they were damn good. But I don't know, coming to the event, I think the Team 1 game really fucked with them. That Team 1, where they lost, like, I think that's just massive. Because already from game 1, you're doubting yourself and how good you guys, like, I seen the way they played today, and it's not the same aggressive G2 who will take any gunfight and will win any gunfight. They do very, very well with taking early map control, but then you just sit and hold angles because nobody wants to do anything. Citizen is the only guy who will actually say, hey, we have to fucking get a move on, and then he starts doing stuff. You know, where's Kanto? Where's Uno? Uno especially, he's a guy who I always knew would make something happen. That's the way he always was. He isn't doing that event. He's just sitting there waiting for somebody else to do it. We need to see more players from G2 take the initiative and actually take it to the teams they're playing.
Who's IGL back on this team again? It should still be Kayak, right?
No,
yeah,
it's Uno.
Kayak.
It's Uno.
Is it?
It's Uno?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I was told it was Kayak. Okay, cool.
Well,
I was too.
The dynamic of G2 is Siege as a whole has developed from one single guy who's speaking all the time to you have to have more than one. Like, that's just the way it is. There is multiple people who would call on that team. I know that Kayak has a lot of experience that he has because he was always like one of the main IGLs that in previous teams he had played up until he had joined G2. But Uno is still, I know, IGL. Kayak has obviously been brought in for the replacement of Pengu, so they needed a support. Kayak, George, he fills that role.
That was pretty obvious, yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of vocal, I think we need a little bit more. I think that's one big thing we're missing from G2.
Yeah.
Well, no, go ahead.
No, during the regular season, I wasn't too high on G2 coming into this tournament. You know, I thought I didn't watch every EUL game. I watched, I think, 3 different EUL games of G2, and I took heavy notes on those. I wasn't really impressed. I did think that G2 were going to get finished towards the bottom of this group. I had them, I think, 3rd last. And I think that, from what I saw in EUL, they just, seemed to skip steps a couple of times, right? Like, they really did, miss some crucial things in a lot of their takes, and that was definitely disappointing to me. I didn't think they'd do this bad, to be clear. But, yeah, something's got to change on G2. They need to fix this somehow. I don't necessarily know. I don't necessarily have that answer, but I hope they improve, because I agree. This is, a legacy team, and it's sad. It's sad seeing them finish how they have been.
Well, let's see if that exact kind of trend in the way that they played ends up carrying over to the other games that they had. They did get 1 dub, but that came in their very next matchup. Let's go ahead and move on to something different, which was the game that I woke up to and didn't think was going to bang this hard. This is Dark Zero against Empire. It goes to 8-6. It goes to Consulate. And everything on paper and historically about this game was already going to be really good. DZ and Empire, especially on LAN before, has always been a matchup that I liked a lot. And on paper, because it's, Dark Zero, even if you didn't have a lot of confidence from their first performance on their first day and Empire were already doing really well, this was probably going to smash it out of the park. 5-1 defensive half from DZ to start the game off, and it has to do with how exquisite their roams ended up being. One round that I can remember in particular, it was round 4 or 5. They're defending on basement. Everyone on DZ is spread out. You got one guy admin, you got one guy yellow stairs, you have 1 or 2 of them in piano, and probably only 1 or 2 players back on site. They're wasting so much time doing nothing but destroying drones before Empire can really establish any map control. Then all of them group together, get down to the hatch in the closet by circle desk from wherever they are on the map, shotgun the hatch down, get back to site, and all of a sudden it turns into a 5 anchor set, and it happens within the span of probably about 2 minutes or so. They waste so much time, and it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, DZ, it could only be you. Just one of those funny things. But we switch halves. Joystick then comes alive on defense. He's playing mostly Malusi, and that's where we saw that one clip of him finding 2 kills in console, then jumping straight out console window and getting the kill onto Skies with a perfect pre-fire. That one had me coming out of my chair, and I was sleep deprived at that point, and I thought it was ridiculous. But the thing that I did want to mostly touch on is what happened when we got to OT. 7-6, and we're back on match point. Dark Zero weren't really able to close out rounds on their own attacks, so when they move to attack in overtime, I figure we're probably going to go to 7-7. We'll probably go to max OT. But the clip that I've got here shows probably one of the fastest and best adaptations we're going to see Dark Zero or really any other team make throughout the course of the tournament. For me, if you want to slap it up here. So this is DZ already having Garage opened up with about 40 seconds to go. They're just doing basic drone work. Everything seems pretty damn standard. There are so many people from Empire that are going to make a rotation back or that are sticking a floor above site someplace. They can't really get in. But then DZ continues to drone with all this map control. They're in admin. Hyper is going to follow with NJR, see Eclipse's drone, and see that everything in Cafe is completely abandoned. There's no one sitting there. So they just say, you know what? We'll bum rush this. We'll find cover, and then all they do is find kills. It's probably one of the quickest things and one of the best rotates that they're ever going to make in this tournament. It was so good, it was so clean, and it catches everyone in Empire completely off guard. And that's after a super fatiguing game having to deal with Joystick doing rat shit for almost the entirety of a defensive half. So kudos to these dudes. They had an absolute blast, and I wasn't expecting this result. I thought Empire probably could have won this.
Yeah, beautiful flying around. And again, I think that kind of shows what Dark Zero can do. Maybe this is similar to G2, where the potential is really high. Whether they're hitting that all the time or not, that's a completely different story. But that was a really impressive round for sure. nice to see Dark Zero like getting around, and especially against like such a top team, right? Like we think of Empire now as one of, if not the best team in the tournament based on group stage results, right? I think that's been like the consistent story so far. So it's nice to see Dark Zero popping off like that. I don't think Consulate was really a map that like I expected them to bring out.
I
too
wasn't
often.
either. Yeah,
that's kind of a throw pick. But clearly that's something they've been prepping. Yeah, I mean,
I did see Reaper's tweet about it saying, "Hey, please, NA teams, please stop picking consulates." And Syria, like, what a concerned viewer. Like, and I'm like, they still did it, dude, and they did it really, really well.
Like, I'll be honest, the thing with DZ that I've kind of lean into is they're a team that I don't think I've ever rated that highly compared to what everyone has said about them. And the reason why is I don't think they've ever really prove themselves on an international stage to really show that they're that good. Yeah, I think back to probably Dark Zero's worst moment was whenever they didn't win Japan. That was for me, that was their defining moment.
100%.
DZ managed to win that event, and especially whenever DZ, they only got picked up by that organization that year. That would have been massive for them, and they would have been seen as, oh, what a massive NA giant, a massive titan. Could have changed how SI 2020 changed as well. So I think for DZ, they have all this hype around them, but I don't think they've ever been they haven't been able to back it up. That's like the main thing for me.
Yeah, I think Dark Zero. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to mention that that's like a very big historical problem for them. I don't want to make the DZ on land joke. I just like, I'm just going to make the DZ on events reference because they can do good in an NAL stage. They can do good in a Pro League stage, but regardless of what you do from an online or an offline regular season context, when it comes to events and you simply can't show up, like, it's not that I had high expectations for them. I just thought that from a playstyle perspective, they would have had things figured out at this point. So to start off the day with an Empire win, I thought things were going to be way better than they were as the day progressed, but clearly I was wrong.
Yeah, I think Dark Zero are the analysts' favorites team, right? Like, if you love a team on paper, I think Dark Zero on paper, you know, they do every step correctly. They have the plans for that, but then when you get into like the reality of Siege, they just like they can't execute the plays that they want to make. I feel like there is maybe they're too structured, maybe they're just too sort of by the book. Their plans are like too thought out so that when they get into a messy situation, when one thing goes wrong, everything sort of falls apart. But I think that's why you see people like Reaper who like think of the game very analytically and think of it sort of more top down level, thinking this team is like so good, and that's why they have that hype. But then when it gets tested on the international stage, it consistently has been falling flat. So yeah, I think it's a team that's fantastic, best in the world in theory. In practice, not the case.
All right, you want to speed run through some more of these and see what we got next?
Yeah, no, I don't mind speedrunning this one. G2 Cyclops. Oof, this was a tough game. Cyclops on defense, like they were all right. They played a lot of C4s. I thought their C4 play was actually like pretty solid. In that first half, it was on Cafe. Cyclops got two defensive rounds on their defensive half. They got both reading defenses. Again, a lot of that coming off of strong C4 play. But G2 were doing a lot. I think Citizen, particularly at the start, carried that game. He had some amazing plays. His frag grenades were nuts. When CAG were playing super aggro, they would just hit the site. Citizen would run into the bomb site when CAG were all over the map. That was the very first round. It was Kitchen and CAG were on the top floor. They were running around having a good time, and then Citizen was in sight killing everybody. It was a good show for G2. I think absolutely. They did love to play like a really aggressive like cigar strat inside a bar where you have like a shield and you've got like maybe a shotgun and a bunch of ADSs lined up, playing aggressive up there, and they just couldn't execute it consistently. G2 knew exactly how to counter that. I think a lot of that is because that strat sort of developed inside of Europe, and G2 know exactly how to play against that, and CAG didn't really understand how to hold that. And then on attack, they were running a lot of gimmicks. They tried to play the Ying. G2 banned the Monty against them, so they fell back on the Ying.
That was already going to be a handicap, yeah.
Yeah, but like there was really no coordination, I think, with the Ying play. G2 would consistently like get aggressive. G2 went for a fair amount of spawn peaks, to be honest with you. A lot of stuff that you'd kind of not associate maybe with a really structured team, but maybe that's not a good way to categorize G2. But they played really aggressive. They often shut down the Ying before she threw a single Candela. Anaton had very little success on the Ying, and Yeah, it was a good showing from G2. I was really impressed by their attacks. Their defense, they kind of just got aggro. They hit really nutty shots to shut down the gimmicky stuff that Cyclops were bringing out. And yeah, I think this was the realistic results. I think I did predict CAG for this one, but I think G2 were the better team in there in this one.
Look, there was a good reason for that. Come on.
No, right, okay. G2, yes, meme them as much as you want, but this was a game that G2 knew that they just had to win. They had to win this game, yeah? They come in and they played, like, just so angry, yeah? All he wanted to do was fucking win. That was it. Citizen was unhinged. He's fucking pissed. He's fed up with losing. He's fed up with putting all this effort in and not winning matches. He just went, fuck it, I'm going to get all the kills. And he did that, yeah? 16 and 6 is a huge performance from him. And even though they won, there were still signs that G2 could have took this a lot easier. I still think, even though they won the game 7-3, which on paper you'd probably think, okay, pretty comfortable, but still, it could have been better.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. There were a couple like really awkward rounds. Like Iagator below them really did like beat them out on defense. On the one attacking round that CAG got, it looked like a solid G2 round. The time was like very low, and so CAG just hit the site and killed everybody. Like I don't know how they won that round on attack. So maybe some holes in G2's armor there, but yeah, that's G2. I think definitely mentally came into that mad. I like that quote demo.
Kind of needed to do something, especially when we didn't expect the most pivotal matchup probably of G2's entire day to be the one where they're also facing the other winless team and need to claw something back. Like that's not where we thought they were going to be, especially like the beginning of the day. But it's good that they were able to kind of show up in a way that we know G2 kind of can, especially when it's a team like CAG who simply haven't been able to find any momentum up until that stage. So good for them, but ultimately the fact that we were at that point in the first place still is a massive blow, especially like to my confidence in G2 as well. So
I'm going to knock on wood, Jacob, and I'm going to say, with that win, it's pretty much secured G2 out of it. I don't think they'll get eliminated now because they have that tiebreaker over CIG. So yeah, I think that should be them sailing through. If everything works well, I mean, at the end of the day, G2, all they need to do is make sure Cyclops don't win a game. I don't know how they can make it happen, but that's what they need to hope.
True.
Hey, they can make it happen by winning some games, Jacob, to be fair.
I mean, the master plan might just end up being if we can win the tiebreaker over CAG, we can make a lower bracket run because we hit everything during the group stage and we didn't need to like reveal anything crazy. So you're still there if you make lower bracket. You've got one life, but you've got one life. So if that's if that's a calculated risk, then good job. You're probably going to end up making lower, like you mentioned, but still, that's a massive risk. So
Jacob,
good luck, Chef.
Can I get mod in your chat? Somebody said that Shaiko is a better fragger than Citizen. I don't know what he's thinking.
Didn't Citizen have 8 kills in the first 2 rounds?
He did.
And didn't Shaiko kind of have a very off day today by comparison?
Yeah, that's true. I don't. This whole Shaiko versus Citizen thing. Like, come on now. Let's be real. Don't be silly. Don't be silly.
I know part of you is also saying that as a biased English caster fanboy.
That's all of it. That's the only part that says that, Jacob. That is all that's speaking right now. There's no. It's not stats.
It's only passion. I understand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to something else here. Everything for B stream meant that it was always one team in and then one team back out again for the next one. So where I started with Dark Zero versus Empire, we then moved into Cloud9 versus Empire because DZ won and then they left the rotation. So we went to Coast, which I kind of thought was interesting because Empire have not played Coast since the November major. They kept this off the books, didn't do anything on it for EUL stage 1, and Cloud9 played a little bit on it over about the same time frame, but it was considerably less. There just wasn't a whole bunch of stuff for them to cover, though Empire definitely could have used that to their advantage as they progressed. It was Cloud9 going 7-2 on entry and opening picks, which is by itself a pretty damn good stat line, but as would be revealed from looking at some other statistics, they're really good at finding those opening kills, and then they simply don't translate that to round wins. We see, they still lose 7-3. Like, that's a massive advantage that you're able to carry with you if you can capitalize on it, but they simply couldn't. That was on both attack and defense, and when they were on defense, there were a few rounds where, it's a 3-3 half, but it could very well have been 5-1 or 4-2, and it came down to Joystick being the one to get aggressive. He has intel where he requires that he has a crossfire somewhere on the map, and then with enough power just getting shoved onto the site with joystick leading the charge, it meant that Envy Taylor and Static doing what they can on site still isn't enough, and that's another a freaking great performance on Joystick's part, which he just continues from day one and continued all throughout today, even in that loss to DZ. He was just on fire today, and today just really proved it.
Cyborg's back.
He's back, baby. That's only a little bit concerning.
True, yeah.
He's back on Ash. He's back on Jackal. He was back on Malusi for their game on console against DZ. Like, he's just doing everything you would expect from a guy whose name is Joystick, who's been doing that exact kind of roam crazy Ash play ever since 2018, 2019. It's ridiculous.
I think the biggest thing to take away with Cloud9 today is they're great at getting like the entry pick, like as good as team as
they're
any
phenomenal.
Of them
yeah,
like you cannot fault them, but you can see the lack of inexperience in terms of international success. Cloud9, they have that lead and they don't know what to do with it. How many times do they have this man advantage and then bang, it's gone? They just toss it away. It's something that Cloud9 need to work on 100%. I would also say to an extent CYCLOPS as well. That's something CYCLOPS did today really well, was get that opening pick and then just do nothing with it. I don't know what it is about APAC teams and doing really well and then all of a sudden, bang, you've lost the round. I think it's definitely a learning curve that is easily fixed as well. I mean, if you have that opening pick, it gives you so many more options. You can have more rotates. You can put people in different positions that you wouldn't have naturally if you didn't have the opening pick. I think overall, Cloud9 and CYCLOPS, if they focus on that and really know how to capitalize on an advantage, they could be world beaters 100%.
And they ended up getting a win against FaZe that we'll get to in a hot second too, which does kind of show that the potential for them succeeding absolutely exists, but it's always very situational for these dudes. And like Jesse mentioned, in the way that they've kind of like progressed due to a lack of an international competition does show when you're getting beaten to a pulp, especially on like a flawless half like Empire would end up having when they switched over to defense. And the adaptation can come, but it's obviously very slow. And when Empire's running roughshod over you, it's just it doesn't turn out well. It never has for them so far.
Yeah, I think it was a good point about like teams that sort of give away that advantage. I feel like oftentimes like these aggressive teams find that problem because they'll swing and they'll get a pick and they'll be like, okay, excellent. Then you'll be in that like 5v4, 5v3, you have advantage, you're in the good spot. And then you keep swinging and it's like, well, if you just played passive, you basically can't lose, right? Because when you have advantage, oftentimes it's on the opponent to make something happen. And by swinging again, you're sort of giving them that opportunity. Like, here's a chance for you to equalize this advantage and win the round. And like, if you win that pick, you were already an advantage. You were already likely to win that round, and so you don't really gain anything from that. And so these teams that sort of they swing and it works, and they swing again. I think that's sort of where the problem comes in. I don't mind swinging in like even situations, and definitely when you're down, you try to make a play. That's totally fine. But it's these advantage swings that I really don't like seeing from some of these lower level teams. And you mentioned Cloud9. I definitely saw a lot of that from CYCLOPS as well.
In APAC's case, for the very, very least, you want to talk about them being able to correct themselves and kind of get back on track in the first of two APAC wins that we had today?
Yeah, so Spawny is very interested in this game. She's going to come and talk about Liquid versus CYCLOPS. Yeah, this was the only time that CYCLOPS managed to win a game, and I think it had a lot to do with confidence for CYCLOPS. I think CYCLOPS, from watching them, in the APAC playoffs and from watching them here at SI, they seem like an extremely mental-based team. This game started off with a 4K from BlackRay, and it kind of did continue. They only got 2 attacking rounds. It was on consulate once again. Liquid's defenses did look better than KAG's attacks, but overall, I did feel that that their attacks looked fine. Palu kind of like shut him down sometimes. Nesk had some big moments that made it tough for KAG, but it really was like some good takes overall. Not all of them were good takes, but there were some solid ones in there. We finally saw the Monty starting to work. That very first round where BlackRay got the 4K, a lot of it came from the Monty. They just walked down yellow. BlackRay's sitting behind Monty and he's getting that 4K, and this is what we saw in APAC, right? This is what they were known for. Their Monty play is world renowned, and you anticipate that that's going to pop off. It hasn't been so far in SI, but this game it started to do that. And then we ended the first half with another round win from CAG. It really did seem like it it got them motivated. Then they got their first defensive round as well. Then they really started to get that fire burning. Liquid won one, but then late into this one, there was a rehost. We had started the game, and I believe somebody crashed out. Or no, the whole server crashed. The whole server crashed about 30 seconds into the round probably, and it was a clash hold of Garage from CYCLOPS. And they came back from the rehost. If we can get clips, Jacob, I don't know if you have this easily available or not.
Which round are we talking?
We're talking round number 10 after the rehost. The rehost happens about 30 seconds into round number 10.
Is this the yellow door incident?
This is the yellow door incident.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So
let me pull it up here. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, jeez, I don't want to spoil it necessarily.
I mean, the way I looked at this game was CYCLOPS literally had nothing to lose whatsoever. Like, they came into this game, they didn't care. They just wanted to play some Siege, and fucking hell, they brought it. You know, they've been able to beat Liquid, arguably the best team coming into this event. One of the best teams coming into this event. And yeah, they just made a mockery of some of the players. PSK, a very bad game. Wasn't expecting that from him. Yeah, I mean, CYCLOPS being able to abuse what they're good at, and that is the shield play.
Yeah,
it was. I do have it pulled up here. You want to take a look at it? Let's see.
Okay,
we're talking post rehost. Obviously, they had to go back and pick all the same ops that they did, but we're coming into this already.
No, back.
Oh, you missed it. Keep going. Start of the round. Start of the round.
You missed it, Jacob.
All the way. All right, let's see.
Start of the round.
I want to see every kill. So
here we go.
And we miss it a little bit, but you should be able to tell. Watch white stair or yellow stairs here. Anaton is on the clash. He gets his shield out, and who's behind him? Gatorada is Gatorada's there. Iagator as well is there holding behind them, and so they double spawn peek this. One's on the top window, Iagator's on the bottom window, and so Blackray gets a kill in a nest as well while this is happening. So it's like a whole team effort, and then we can continue this on because there's going to be a 4K happening. This is not the end of the round yet. It's not a slow one. Don't worry. Liquid will open the wall. There is no wall denial, and Iagator running the FMG rather than that shotgun on smoke proves to be a very good tactic. He gets the second one as they run in the breach. Anaton here just doing so much on the shield, and this is so. Imagine being Sexy Cake here, life stuff.
They didn't care. They didn't give a shit, Jesse.
No, they're just running out here, and they feel so confident. That's the big thing for me. These last couple of rounds, they feel so in control of this game, and I just think they were feeling themselves.
Sexy Cake's face in that
They
moment,
hit
man.
their shots. Yeah, I mean, that's the last one for Iagator. They felt themselves. That's all it is, I feel. They just were in the zone, and they haven't been all SI.
Wow. All right. Yeah, I hadn't seen that one. So good play to come back from, but that's after rehost. Was it? I'm curious if that was just because they were like, you know what? We kind of already had something set up. 30 seconds in, server crashes. We're just going to do something completely different, and they just decided to do some crazy right shit that we only
exactly
see
what it was
in. I don't want to say only in APAC, but now I'm definitely going to see if I can't get my crew to steal that, and we'll try that on Consulate later. But good freaking.
I was thinking the same thing. Whenever I seen that happen, I was like, hold on a minute. I could be good potential.
I'm stealing this. Yeah,
that'll work in silver.
Silver? How dare you, Jesse? You talking to me or Jacob? You talking to Jacob, I understand, but can't be talking to me like that.
Man. I would ask you what you usually place, but then again, EU and NA
I
are
got
two
jumped this
completely
season,
different
so
beasts in
I'll
rank.
take
So.
it.
Nah, that's fair. That's fair. All right. On the opposite side of the APAC coin, because we were a little concerned about them doing anything substantial on the day, I had Cloud9 FaZe. Believe it or not, this matchup on paper I don't think has ever happened, even in a DreamHack context. I want to say we've never seen the two brands of FaZe Clan and Cloud9 going up against one another, which in North America is obviously a really big deal, but it's a Korean team against a Brazilian team. So in this case, we were expecting the Brazilians to win. Not so much the case. This was a 7-2 clobbering on Clubhouse. And it was a double hard breach ban the whole way. Cloud9 actually had a lot of problems. They started on attack. They were trying to, work on their hard breach and dedicating their thermite and their ace to two different parts of the map over and over again. And it was Envy Taylor who was playing Thatcher, and believe it or not, he was having a lot of problems with his own EMP economy. He was looking for ways to use them effectively, but he ended up using sometimes full dumping EMPs to get single exterior walls open, both on CC and on Jacuzzi, depending on the site, and it seemed like he was kind of struggling with it. So with that in mind, a double hard breach set and a little bit of wonky EMP play, we still end on a 4-2 half for Cloud9 based on some ridiculous round steals, and then FaZe Clan's mental getting chalked so early on that they had no ability to recover. And I do have a clip pulled up here for me if we want to take a look at it. This was only on round 2 and was the first of 2 attacking rounds that they managed to steal away, and I do use the word steal because just looking at what the situation itself is ridiculous. So they're in already a disadvantageous spot with Thatcher dead. They do have, I believe, CC wall open, but they just say, screw it, we can't do anything left. Look at how much time is left on the clock. Everyone from FaZe is still alive. They simply bum rush smoke plant. There's a castle barricade in the way. Cyber has no idea where he's positioned, and everyone on FaZe just falls one by one. They get out of dodge. Nova sticks on site for probably longer than he should have, but that's because FaZe has no clue. The frags are everywhere. FaZe threw this when they shouldn't have. It's just ridiculous, dude. I was out of my seat listening to this clip.
I think Cloud9 remembered the Liquid game and realized that they had a few free coupons for rounds that were owed to them, and they cashed in against FaZe Clan.
Yeah.
One Brazilian team will pay the debt of another, and yeah, well done by Cloud9. That's a hype play for sure. It's nice to see them clutch out some rounds here after the Liquid game for real.
Yeah, and that was only the first of those 2 rounds they would end up kind of just finding out of the blue, and I didn't think they had any chance, but they still did. And the other part about this is simply that FaZe Clan's mental was in the gutter probably since that round in particular. They were losing very early engagements. C9 were getting aggressive, most specifically Shyle. Like 11-2 is already an impressive stat line, but consider that he was doing it when FaZe Clan had probably had some good defensive setups. Like the entire time they were positioned appropriately, they were doing their jobs well, and Shyle did not care for any of FaZe Clan's time wasting, especially on upper floor bomb sites, and just took the fight straight to them. And FaZe were whiffing at every turn. Cameraman, Souls, Astro, everyone simply were not able to compete with the fragging power of him and Nova at the same time. Nova, for his own part, being second place on Cloud9's scoreboard, and he's playing hard support. Oh my god, it was masterful. And FaZe, they were literally done after like the second to third round. It was crazy.
Yeah, all around just a poor performance from FaZe, which you don't see all too often. I mean, FaZe have played pretty well. Cameraman, especially for me, has been a standout. And to see them play that bad, I mean, it definitely was their worst performance by far inside of SI. Hopefully that will stay as their worst performance, because I think, obviously we'll look at their game later on, but they did manage to bounce back from that. And yeah, I think FaZe just overall just missed the beat on Clubhouse. Was it the best map they could have went for? Who knows? You know, obviously map bans have been a big talking point with teams that went on wrong maps for a lot of the occasions. So yeah, I don't know, FaZe just having a bit of a mental mud, you could say. But hey, 2 APAC teams win at the same time. Something was bound to happen. That was crazy. I mean, hey, upsets at this tournament. Obviously, do you guys talk about tomorrow's games as well?
We probably can, depending on how much time we've got, but yeah.
I'll save the Makers speech until later on, and you'll be able to hear the thoughts and Makers from myself. But yeah, overall, I mean, I just another underdog beating a big guy, so that's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, fair play. And also, just to clarify, when FaZe were on their attack, they decided, we're going to send Souls to go blow a wall open, then he's going to bum rush straight in without any additional intel. Was probably the thing that I looked at and went, are they trying to end this game as quickly as possible? Because you don't usually have the Thermite open a wall and then just go in. So I was confused, but ultimately good on C9 for sufficiently chalking the mental enough to get a fat dub. It was great.
Well, are we moving on to Liquid Furia then? Because
let's do it.
This was another 7-2. Yeah, maybe you can provide some insight. I felt like this was
men versus boys. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It was like there was nothing out of this game that surprised you. I mean, Liquid just coming into Chalet, dominant, very, very dominant. They knew exactly what they were doing, and Liquid were a very, very slow team. Probably the slowest I think I've ever seen Liquid play on Chalet. They set up, and all they did was hold angles, and to be fair, Furia just fed. I really don't know what Furia were after. Were they looking to just try and get as many kills as they could? To be fair, the thing with Liquid is if you manage to find the opening picks, they look a lot weaker. Liquid are very, very scary if they have all 5 players alive for their final execute. So Fury were going with that playstyle of let's kill them before they have a chance to set up. Yeah, sure, I get it. But Liquid, that game specifically, were very, very patient, and they played right into Furia. They knew exactly what they were going for, and Nesk was just happy enough just to sit in a corner, sit on the rooftop, and just hold an angle. That's all he did. There's not much else to it.
Yeah, I think Nesk was definitely the MVP of this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking at the stats, that seems to confirm that. Goodbye,
Sheesh.
Funny. Nesk had a fantastic game. There were some rounds where you literally did just chill, and they definitely over-engaged on the side of Furia. I feel like Furia, maybe that's their mindset. We want to stop them from getting set up, but like, you're not going to win gunfights versus Liquid very often, and like they really wanted to play those gunfights, and they just really couldn't. They couldn't contest in the same way. Sometimes Nesk would literally just peek and it was over. Like there was just no hope. I think once they swapped sides, because obviously it was a 4-2 split. Furia got 2 defenses, then they couldn't get a single attack in 3 rounds. I really do think that Furia struggled to contain the roamers. I don't think they got close to sight even a single time, other than the final round where they did get a plant down, but that was a tragic one. Demo, I don't know if you remember that. The team kill in the post plant was...
Yeah.
Oh, that one hurt.
Oh, yeah, really?
That hurt to watch.
There was a couple of rough moments. I mean, to be fair, like what you said, that Furia couldn't even get in the building, that was true. I mean, Liquid literally brought like a Castle, Frost, a Rooney, literally bringing operators that stop you entering in through windows. They brought it all. So I think Liquid had a really good game plan, and they just impressive. I mean, that was one of their best performances on Shally by far. And that's a map now that I'm going to have in the back of my head. That's a scary one for any team to go up against Liquid on that map.
Yeah, they played really well.
Let's see if we can't also hit on another Latin American team trying to find a bounce back against an APAC team, which in this case was probably my game to watch. It was one you were a big fan of, and I know you probably were kicking yourself for switching streams that you couldn't watch, Jesse. It's BDS against FaZe. We went to Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the third or fourth time at this point the BDS have opted to go to Dostoyevsky, and it goes the full 8-7 OT distance. Good freaking grief. If you wanted a matchup that was going to be round for round, blow for blow, it was going to be this one. It was BDS, then FaZe, then BDS, then FaZe, over and over and over again, all the way up until round 11, where FaZe finally won their second consecutive round, and then BDS won another one to force OT. It was like FaZe were trying to adapt mostly to what BDS were doing, I think, and for their own part, you can always expect BDS to find a way to work around whatever playstyle of whatever team they're going up against. But in this case, it simply kept on like the train back and forth over and over again, and there wasn't really a dull moment. The one thing that this came down to, believe it or not, was FaZe Clan and kitchen attacks. There were 3 times the BDS went to kitchen service, and that was 2 times on their defensive half, and then 1 time, which was the very last round, which was the main reason why FaZe lost. Their executes were the exact same all 3 times. You had 1 positioned in small bake, 3 guys would go open up main bakery wall and then push prep. You didn't clear anyone else out from the top floor. They simply decide they're going to force push from that side of the map. They're not going to put anyone, by Brown, VIP, no one pushing freezer, no one clearing roamers out up top, and there was always somebody, I believe it was Daye, who would sit and open up that hole in prep and then just, find someone while he tries to traverse his way in. FaZe can look up as much as you want, but when you have someone looking down, you're always going to be at a disadvantage. That was 3 rounds in a row. There was no change. Nothing on FaZe Clan's side differed from that game plan every single time. And ultimately, FaZe Clan, they only win 1 of those kitchen attacks. And when BDS won, they came away with the one that mattered the most on OT match point. And I thought it was very confusing that they didn't change anything on FaZe's side for those attacks.
Yeah, I remember tuning in the only one I could watch was the final round 15. And
yeah, same with me. Yeah. Anyone I see.
Yeah, I remember watching that and coming in, and I was like, okay, I mean, this seems like a fine take, but that was the one where they didn't take up above at all, right? They just kind of came in the bakery and hit him head first. I was like, okay, well, it seems like BDS are very ready for this. They really do just know all the angles to hold, and the plant spot doesn't really work. They end up in the 1v3. It didn't really seem like it was close for FaZe Clan. So I was kind of disappointed with the final round, considering I knew it was 7-7 by that point.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd still have 3 people clustered up in small bake, and the one rotation that you end up making is someone going into small bake window late. Like, there are so many different avenues that you can try to hold from, but Shiro on the Echo, sorry, not Shiro, Rafal on the Echo ended up being a difference maker in that one, because you can open it up and try to smoke plant. Like, that's respectable, but Echo is becoming more of a potent force in this tournament than I think most people were probably expecting. Like, after his nerf, you didn't really know if he was going to be picked that often or used very effectively, but he still was. Even if you've got the cloaking taken away off the yokai, people are still going to make you pay if you're trying to smoke plant, especially. So good stuff from BDS, and FaZe just disappointed me on this one.
Weird game, because Shaiko was bottom of the leaderboard, which doesn't
He was not having a
happen,
good day at all, yeah.
At all. Like, it was a Lambs who, I think, as good as Brian is as a player, he always has been, like, very, very strong since he was inside of the pro scene. I've never really seen him pop off the way he did today. Like, that is by far his best performance, I think, of his career, 100%. What he did today was magical, absolutely magical. Being able to hit those highs was incredible, and yeah, BDS, just what to say. Definitely one of the teams that were clear favorites to win this entire tournament. And I think they're living up to it, because that's the kind of game that you would expect to see in the playoffs. And, well, if it was a playoff game, BDS would be winning.
And the only real concerning thing I have about BDS so far through this whole thing is that they have their dominant wins, and like that 7-1 over G2 is a wonderful example of just kicking someone in the teeth and not letting them get back up again. But most of their games so far have gone to OT. Like a mass percentage of their games have actually gone all the way, like the full distance, to 15 rounds, which is only really concerning when you consider that they are still allowing teams to take them the distance. They can still execute when push comes to shove. They haven't lost a game in overtime yet. It's still like my heart is fluttering because I'm waiting for them to make that one botch that's going to cost them the whole thing. They still don't. Under pressure, they're fine. It's just they're still permitting these teams to win enough rounds to get to that stage, like, anyway, and that's probably the only real concern I have about them so far.
I mean, they did lose that game to Empire in overtime, 8-7.
Oh shoot, they did. Oh my bad. Right, you're right. You're right.
But yeah, I think it's a little bit of a strange coincidence that the French team is getting all these overtime wins, and the French tournament doesn't differentiate between overtime wins for points and regular wins. I think that's a little strange.
Agreed.
A little strange there. I don't know. Bit of a coincidence.
Not really cool with it, though. Okay, to be fair, I think that especially, like, I did tweet about this today. I've seen people on Reddit and Twitter talk about it, especially. Until we end up seeing what the overall amount of overtime games look like and can factor in what it would be if it was 2 points for an overtime win and 1 point for an overtime loss, I don't really know if it's going to shift the standings all that much ultimately. I think it's more of just like the matter of principle of, if you manage to take a team to OT, then I do not think that kind of effort should go without some kind of reward in the standings. Like, that's an accomplishment for some teams. Like, if you have like a super unfavorable matchup and it's like a team from APAC going up against a team from LATAM, you're kind of inherently expecting the LATAM team to win. But if you're still going to overtime for that APAC team, that's a really damn good thing. Like, and probably like subverts expectations all across the board. Why not give them a point for something like that? And I don't really know if it's going to have that much of a shakeup in the standings, but we just can look at some teams who have had multiple overtime appearances, like G2, like BDS, who could be sitting at a different point value, and whether or not that would shake up maybe 1 or 2 placements or potentially affect upper bracket or lower bracket, I don't know. But it's just the principle is lost there because we don't know what it looks like, because it simply wasn't implemented for the group stage.
Yeah, I think with a large sample size, the two formats tend towards the same result, right? If you consider, like, you know, overtime games being a little bit more randomized, like, they will tend towards the same direction. But it's the principle, you know. I don't think it is fair to consider an 8-7 victory the same as a 7-0. So that's just how I feel about it. But yeah, it will trend towards the same result, but that's not really the point, you know.
Demo, any opinion?
I mean, obviously it's a big talking point, isn't it? It always has been since it kind of like happened. So I think for this format, whenever it is like just winning your games, that's what it's all about. I think it makes a little bit more sense. I think then if you start pulling it in, it's kind of like back into like a league standing, isn't it? So I think if you want like a clear winner in a way, like a clear decisive win where that's it, all you do is win, it's either win or loss, I think it puts more pressure on the teams as well, I think, more than anything.
I think it does too, because when you're also considering that a 7-0 win and an 8-7 win are like exactly the same thing, like this is an event that pulls no punches for a world championship, where it's if you are going to prove that you are the best, then you are going to do it without any additional help from, you know, overtime win or overtime loss. It's solely based upon your win-loss record, which I guess might be their way of essentially saying, we are finding the best team in the world, and if for some reason you have a problem with that, then your standings will be the thing that takes the hit, so you better put the work in to prove that you're there. But it kind of sits wrong with me, maybe because I do appreciate the way that the league structure has kind of shifted to incorporate overtime now, and we don't have draws as a consideration anymore. But that might just be me. So
yeah, I think as like a, you know, I think it's a group stage, right? The goal should be to get the best teams into the bracket. I think the best teams are more likely to get in if you give overtime points to teams that get close, right? I think you're going to trend towards the better teams that way. Again, I don't think it makes a huge difference, but I think you should always go for the more competitive format, at least in this case.
All right, I want to keep going with your next one?
Yeah, let's move on. Cloud9 Furia. This one wasn't too bad from Cloud9. I was kind of impressed with a lot of the stuff I did see. Best Tachanka play I've ever seen from a competitive team. They rocked Tachanka on the garage hold on Consulate. They used it in combination with the smoke. They used it to basically deny a bunch of different plant spots for a really long time. I thought they got a lot of value out of Tachanka. I was impressed. I liked the Tachanka. It wasn't like flashy, to be honest. It wasn't like super cool. But,
I was going to ask if it was highlight worthy or not. Yeah,
probably not. Like, I can just explain it to you. They threw a bunch of those fire grenades at the door or at the breach. They combined it with a bunch of toxic babes at the breach, and like, you know, Furia were standing at the breach saying like, how do we get in and where do we plant?
Just kind of waiting for it to subside.
Yeah, and you know, the timing wasn't amazing before that for Furia, so that won them the round overall, I would say. There were also some cool plays. I think they had an interesting setup on their teller's hold, where they really did focus on the roam. They had like a really cool shield at the top of Visa stairs going into projector. That just like destroyed Furia. So that was like a cool hold, I thought, from Cloud9. There were some throws for sure from Furia on their attacks, but defense, you know, they definitely brought it back. I thought C9's attacks were very slow. Even when they got like a huge man advantage, they still like decided to grind to a halt, and it was really disappointing to see, because this is kind of what I noticed from some of the other games, right? Like, their defenses are fine, solid defenses, some good ideas. They switch to attack, and it's just like there's nothing there, which is, I think, a big disappointment. I didn't love any of their operator lineups, and the speed, I think, was the biggest thing for me. They just couldn't get anything going, even when it seemed like they had man advantage.
Same thing again with, they get the opening picks. Like, look at the stats. They had the opening kill 7 times in the match. So that is the majority. And still not winning the rounds. Like, that's it for C9. Same with CYCLOPS. You have these opening picks, but you can't do anything with them. It's... I don't know. It's so strange, because there's some teams out there, whenever they have the man advantage, they never lose it. Look at Liquid, for example. If Liquid have the man advantage, they win the round flawless. That's how that works. You never see those very experienced teams lose those man advantages, because they know how much it means to have that man advantage and getting that first kill. I've always said it. I think the hardest job on the team is the entry. That is it. That is the hardest job, because at the end of the day, unless you're getting those first picks, your team's not going to do anything. If you keep getting picked off first, that's not going to bode well for the rest of your team. Entry is as such, it's the mental capacity. You know, you're going into the engagement thinking, I have to win this, I have to win this. Because if you don't, your team's probably going to lose a round.
I think like part of it for these teams, maybe not all teams, but at least for Cloud9, you know, when you get that opening pick, but you aren't necessarily able to convert it, I don't even know if it's necessarily fair to call it a man advantage, because they get the lead in player count, right? But they don't play it like it's an advantage, right? They just keep playing the round normally. Whereas for, you know, the good team, for like, you know, Liquid, for example, they get the man advantage and they recognize they have an advantage and they play differently because of that. For Cloud9, it was like they'd get the man advantage and then they just like pretend like they never had any sort of advantage, and they'd still play scared. They'd still play like they couldn't cut some corners, whereas Liquid, I think, smartly do cut some corners there when they have that lead. They know there's not going to be a threat in a certain position. So I think that's the biggest difference between teams that can capitalize off man advantage and teams that maybe don't know how to do that yet.
And it does kind of lead back into, I think, an overall APAC playstyle that we're seeing so far. For all three APAC squads here, the idea has been very, like, we can do really good things in the early round. Mid-round is kind of where we need to make or break things, because in the late round, and like the side execute, when you're trying to make your final push, can we get some catch jam in chat, by the way, for Spawny making another appearance, please? That'd be great. The problem just seems to be, you're doing really good stuff as the round starts, but then as the round keeps going on, there is nothing that you can really create that's very substantial. There simply isn't a lot of separation. So that was the same case with Giants against Space Station yesterday. That's the same case with Cloud9, and that is a cat. Thank you for catching, chat. I appreciate that.
That is a cat-a-thon, Jacob. Good job. Oh, and the cats.
Does that qualify me to be an official licensed Rainbow Six caster? I saw a cat, and I said it was a cat.
Yes.
I don't know.
Welcome to the analyst desk, Jacob. You've made it.
Getting graduated off the analyst desk. Oh, great.
Yeah, you get your laptop when you can identify a giraffe.
Do you still not have a laptop, one of those Jacob?
Like, I do not have a laptop. No.
I'm using a Predator laptop right now. You know, like,
it's a beast, isn't it?
What's your excuse, mate? I'm not even in North America League. I'm not sponsored with them, but I'm using one right now.
Yeah, I saw it. Like, Dez is using it. Like, Fluke's got one. Like, everyone was adding me about it, like, on day one, saying, "Hey, production's got laptops. Where's yours?"
What a sick joke. Get Jacob a laptop. Like, come on.
It's kind of funny,
though. By the way, I love how this joke has kind of turned into like the most first world thing that could ever happen. Like, I'm being made fun of for not having an $800 gaming machine. Like, yeah, dude, all the things I could be made fun of, it's for not having this one thing that only like mid to upper class people are capable of affording. It's just...
Yeah,
I think it's funny. I think it's ridiculous.
No, I'm sure I could make of many things to make fun of you, Jacob, if you give me a bit of time. I'm sure I could.
Oh, dear God. Yeah, I do forget that you are the meme Twitter god.
Let's start with your prediction, shall we? Let's start there.
We'll get to that as we keep talking about DZ as the day progresses. But what we did have next up was BDS and Team 1. We went to Oregon. We had a Yana ban, which I think is... it has to be one of the first times I think I've seen a Yana taken off the board so far through this tournament. Just trying to take a little bit of that fragging potential away from Team 1 was kind of the way that I thought they took it. Alamal still had a really good game in spite of it being a Team 1 loss. I think probably one of the craziest clips that we saw was him inside closet. He was downstairs. It was a basement defense on laundry. It's a 1v3 scenario. It seems like BDS are just going to kind of like swarm onto Alamal from a lot of different sides, but instead he whips out an SMG, then finds two straight shotguns, one through a wall, then crouches, leans, finds the other one on the opposite side wall. The clip itself is really, really good. I just wasn't able to find it before we started this. It's genuinely insane. But Alamal was probably the only real bright spot in this game, because the rest of BDS, I keep saying that they can play very structured, like more methodical, or they can play like very smash mouth in your face, and sometimes if they need to go for more aggressive plays, they can. They're fully capable of doing both. But in this game, they almost kind of seemed like they were trolling a little bit. Like, everyone on that team seems so solid that they can kind of fill into like whatever role they need. They weren't really concerned about Team 1 in this game at all. They kind of did the same thing CAG did against Liquid, just said, we're just going to play a game of Siege. Team 1 are in the trenches fighting for their lives. But for BDS, you were in a situation where Shiro, Alems, and Brede could all do crazy stuff, and Shaiko could go around knifing people on attack and not necessarily take the game as seriously as you'd think. So Shiro having a massive game to help shut down the rest of Team 1 was obviously great, but everyone on that squad was just making sure that there was no footing for Team 1 in this matchup in the slightest.
Surprised, to be honest. I mean, Team 1 were a team that, again, I've said that have came in, unexpected to most people in terms of what they can do, and I thought it was going to be at least an overtime. I didn't think BDS would take it as clean as it was, and one thing I am very proud of to say about BDS is I'm just happy that they've moved away from the stigma around them of this team is just one guy. For the longest time, that's all it was. BDS, Shaiko, that's it. It was Team Shaiko, it wasn't anything else. Shaiko's had one of the worst days of his career. and they're still winning games very convincingly. I think that's a real credit to the other 4 players that they've just smashed that stereotype out of the park. I'm really, really happy to say that. I'm glad to see BDS can still do as well as they can, even if Shiko isn't on his game. And I actually now, guys, I worry if that's the team without Shiko, whenever he's not playing well, what's the team going to be like if Shiko is playing well?
He has had a pretty darn quiet day-to-day specifically, and I think so far for the whole tournament, he hasn't had phenomenal stats, like where we expect them to be so far, I think.
Yeah, I think at least with how we used to think of BDS, maybe he hasn't been popping off, but like I think Shiko has been playing well. Like I don't think, at least overall in the tournament, I think he's had some good games. I think BDS overall
he's definitely not doing poorly by the definition of other players doing poorly. He's not at the same level.
But we know what he's like. Like we know where his standard is, and to not see his standard every day, because that's what we do. Every day in EUL we see his standard. We see how good he is, and it's just a bit of a shock. Like this is him playing bad, but he's still playing good. That just shows how really great he is. It's a weird one. It really is.
Yeah, I think BDS are one of the scariest teams in this whole tournament. That's what I kind of assumed going into it without watching a bunch of VUL, and now seeing BDS actually in the group stage. Yeah, that seems to hold pretty true. This team looks really strong, and I anticipate this will be a semifinals at the least, probably grand finals team.
I'm not really concerned about Team 1 standing overall from this game because it turned into another 2 wins for them. They had, they had the latest games overall on the day, whereas a lot of teams like started very, very early, or had games that were kind of like sporadic, and like Dark Zero started at the beginning of the day and then had to wait, several hours to get to their last 2 games. All of Team 1's games came in very quick succession. This was their first time getting into a lobby for day 2 of the group stage for them. So overall, they turned this into 2 very strong, convincing victories. But it just seemed like if you were going to do anything, and like if any game was going to be a wash, the fact that it was your first one against BDS, who already have kind of just this reputation of domination through the first 2 days of groups, is probably like the least amount of blood that you could have shed. But yeah, I'm not super concerned about their standing so far.
Yeah, talk about it more when we get into their better games, but I think Team 1 look very good right now.
Yes, please. All right, you had one that was closer than I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to lie.
This was not just the best game of the day. This was the only good game of the day. Empire versus G2. This one was a lot of fun. I think teams both played relatively well. Neither team was flawless. It was on Oregon. We went 12 rounds. We started with G2 on defense. Empire won some really bad-looking attacks, I would say. I think G2 definitely looked like the stronger team in this first half. Yeah, there were a few times where like Empire, the very first round, they were trying to push in, and then they went for a front take. They could not open the mirror windows. They were struggling, so they just went back and fragged out, and it worked out for them, and that was pretty nice. I do think a couple of the rounds that they played were very kind of scrappy. Like there was one, it was a meeting defense. Empire were trying to clear up above. And then eventually Joystick got bored and ran down white stairs and just killed everybody. They hadn't finished clearing above yet, but Joystick decided he wanted to make a play, and he can do that because he's Joystick. This was another game where Joystick really did carry. I made a tweet. Might have been after this game. Yeah, it was. Joystick has been the top fragger in every single one of Empire's games, including the one that they lost. So that's just like ridiculous. He is 100% back to his old form. I think on attack, G2 played fine. Neither of these teams were big Oregon teams from the stats that Crux and I looked at. And G2, I think, kind of showed that. They didn't have anything super creative. They played relatively default. But they played pretty strong. I thought that they looked good on Oregon. I'd like to see them come back and play it again. Both of these teams played relatively good, but Joystick once again stole the show. Interesting, he's not the highest rated player. I suppose it's close there. And he did get the most frags, but
so the most frags, was the MVP. Yeah. I was about to say,
yeah. How does Citizen have? I'm looking at Citizen. I'm just thinking like. Mm-hmm. This guy is, again, just so consistent for his team, and I'm really surprised why he isn't got the highest rate in that team. I'm really surprised, because I'm just looking at his stats, and I think his stats are, like, a lot better than the rest of his team. I don't know, I think sometimes
assuming
CGG ratings are weird.
The low SRV might be the thing taking him down.
Yeah.
But
by that much, though?
Well, there's the 1vx as well. The 1vx was like a pretty cool round. It was like a Dorms defense. Virtue gets like a pretty sick 1v2. Joystick had like the worst swing ever. I know I just talked him up, but he was holding white stairs covering for his planter, and he just like swings it as wide as he possibly can and gives Virtue a free kill. So I think that does contribute considerably, because it's basically a whole round that Virtue's winning by himself. But yeah, that is weird that he is technically a 0.01 rating higher.
At the end of the day, Citizen was still the best player in that team today, 100%. Yep. Again, the real lifeblood, you do sit there and wonder where would GT be if you didn't have Citizen. You know, Citizen has been one of the hottest players since about midway 2019 all the way up to this point. You know, very, very consistent this time with Na'Vi, of course, and then coming on to G2. You know, I cannot praise this guy enough, just how mechanically gifted he is. Me and Ben go way back. We used to team on Xbox back in like year 1, season 2. So we have quite a history. And yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to see the guy do so well. But I do think he deserves more than what G2 are currently receiving.
Here's a question that I don't necessarily know the answer to, and I think there might be a myriad of responses on it, but I did see Dez tweet about it. He said that there was something a little bit concerning about Empire's success rate in the fact that it's always seemingly to be Joystick being a difference maker, or putting up like an MVP performance, or being top rated, or having the most kills, that contributes to the wins that Empire seem to be having. I don't want to call them nearly as much of a shallow team to say that everything that they're doing relies upon the performance of one dude popping off. To Joystick's credit, I don't think there's really been a game where he hasn't popped off. Even in their loss, he was still top rated against DZ. Like, he was doing everything right. His roams were impeccable. But it does, I guess, kind of beg the question, is Empire just do everything around Joystick and let him do what he does? Or I would hope that they're not as one-dimensional as that. But yeah, he did pose the question today.
I don't think they're like too concerned about it. We saw the stats, and it did seem like everybody else was contributing. Always had the game-winning play, I would argue, with a really cool security drone or security roam that G2 absolutely failed to clear. Really got slammed by it and didn't do well there. But overall, I think that the rest of the team definitely did step it up. I think coordination is a huge thing for Team Empire, right? And it's not just Joystick getting those kills, right? There's drones in front of him. There's his teammates distracting, which I think is a big deal.
He's getting those kills somehow. It's not just him walking in,
Yeah, they go for pinch plays, which are really well coordinated. I don't think it's only Joystick. Joystick's having an amazing tournament, and it's been consistently amazing. Again, every single game he's been the top fragger. So I think they're fine if he slows down a little bit throughout the tournament. But honestly, I don't even expect him to do that.
No,
I think
neither do I.
I think they're okay.
I'm not looking for it. Yeah,
Joystick and LAN is just a different breed. I think he always has been just a LAN demon. Whenever it comes to online, like, you look at Empire's performance in EUL this split, miserable. The only reason why they finished 9th and not 10th is because they beat the 10th place team. That is it. That is the only difference. So, yeah, overall for Empire, I mean, this event, we had very low expectations. I think everyone did. After what they pulled out in EUL, we thought, God, what chance do they have? But no, they have been the biggest surprise, I think, out of all the teams. It's just how dominant Empire have been. I cannot explain how much of a night and day difference it is. It is insane. And yeah, I think they're just going to keep pushing on. Joystick in contention for, I mean, so obviously in like football or soccer, if you guys are from NA.
Thank you.
Every like big event, you have the golden boot, which is whoever gets the most goals. What do we call that for Siege? Is it the golden gun? I have no idea, but for most kills, he's definitely in contention for that, 100%.
I don't really know if there's anyone who can catch up to him at this point. And it's also Alamo, probably, because you have to consider that the only person who'd be able to catch up to him would have to come from Group A, because there are 2 less teams, therefore less games to play in Group B. So if it's going to be anybody, it'll be like one of the people who has like an outstanding number of frags coming from here. So if it genuinely is the Alamo versus Joystick show, that's going to be a fun one to watch, and like we should probably pay a little bit more attention to see which one gets more out of groups. But still, yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's a big gap between Joystick and the next, but looking at it now, Alems is technically second with 69, very nice. Then Citizen 68, then Alamo 67. So it's kind of close if anybody's going to do it. But then like Joystick is 82, so like
so they're really competing for second place.
Yeah.
Jesus,
it's tough.
Oh, good God. Well, speaking of Alamo, we should probably talk about how he and the rest of his squad decimated Dark Zero. And this is DZ. This is DZ coming back after a very long break. They defeated Empire at the beginning of the day, and then they came in against 2 straight Latin American squads, and everything just seemed like it was falling apart. They were not winning their gunfights. They didn't seem like they were taking very golden opportunities where it was presented. It was an Oregon game. It wasn't even like a crazy frag house, and I think Oregon for DZ is one where they can play very structured. It's just one of those maps where with a team that has their pedigree and you understand how well they play into their own playbooks, you'd think they'd do very well on. No, they got smashed. One, we're hitting every single shot. I am happy that if they're losing anywhere, it's going to be here and not in a playoff setting against Latin American teams, but this is already like continuing a very worrying trend of them against teams from Brazil. Like they would lose this one, they would go on to lose against Liquid as the day goes on, and if I'm remembering correctly from day one, they also did lose to FaZe Clan. So you only have so many more Latin American teams that you can play against. I think the only one that they have yet to face so far at this point is Furia, but to pull out what is very abysmal on DZ's end and not really find any international success beyond Europe is incredibly concerning for me.
Yeah, this is a tough one for Dark Zero. This is one that I was kind of hyped for. I wasn't obviously watching. I was watching the B stream, but I was like, all right, this is where Dark Zero pick up their wins. And then somebody in chat told me the score. I was like, all right, this is where I stopped paying attention to chat. It was tough. And Team One are a really interesting team, I feel. Obviously, I was doing the body with Crux, and right at the start of the stream, so before any of these games happened, I asked him, who do you think is going to end up in the finals? And he said, I think Team Empire have been the best team in groups. I expect Empire to make it to the finals. I said, that's probably a safe bet. And then he said, maybe my hot pick is I think Team One meets him there. He thought Team One would go all the way. This is Crux, analyst for Beast Coast, so definitely knows the game really well. And I think he's got a good point. Like, Team One, I do think play the game in a very smart way. I think they've got a play style that's more like, it's got kind of a North American tint to it, and that it is like a bit more structured than what we see from Latin America. But it definitely has some Latin American aspects, and they can get aggressive and they can frag out if they need to. And Team One have just been incredibly impressive. And I didn't see this game, but Levy getting a 13-3 KDR is kind of nuts. And yeah. This team is the real deal. I'm excited to see where they finish.
3 players with 89% cost kind of tells you all you really need to know about how that game transpired too. Like if your kills are on point, but your impact elsewhere on the map is also on point. This is pretty devastating, I think, for DZ, and this would be the start of a trend that also continues into the Liquid game that I'll touch on a little bit more when we get to that one. But it's the idea that Dark Zero are still trying to find an identity overall after adding NJR to the team. And there are a lot of things that concern me about you still trying to do role swaps while a game and while a tournament is still transpiring. I think it'll become more apparent when we get to that Liquid game. But this one was kind of like just the start of a very worrying pattern about why DZ would start making some of these changes when you're literally trying to get out of SI groups. So, yeah.
Yeah, Dark Zero for me, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, Jacob. Finding the identity for them, massive roster change for them. Losing Hot and Cold is massive. It's on like the same level as whenever Fabian left G2, a core member who's been there for ages. And obviously Hot and Cold basically went into NAL and said, fuck you. We've seen what he did. And NJR, the guy's gifted. He really is. Obviously, we've seen him before he joined Dark Zero, one of the best players in NAL for that season as well, prior to that. So I think you have to give the kid credit. He has the skill, he has the gift. But are Dark Zero using that to their full potential?
This is probably a roster change that, as much as I like it, and I think bringing in a fragger to replace a support player does mean that you can kind of shift the direction of the team around a little bit, and in some pretty interesting ways. Given that it's DZ, they're going to do some crazy stuff with that. The problem for me is I'm looking at bringing in one of the more exceptionally skilled players that all of North America has seen in a very long time, and turning it all of a sudden into one of the worst performing roster changes that a T1 level team, like a major contending squad, top 4 in a region, has probably made for NA in quite some time. Like when they brought in Skies and Eclipse all the way back at the end of 2019, it obviously did take them a while to get going because they were looking like to find their form.
Yeah.
Skies coming in from Reciprocity and Eclipse from Rogue, 2 very different systems, and looking to meld kind of at the crux point with DZ. They ended up doing that, and very successfully, especially during the COVID era. But then you bring NJR in, and it seems like their roles are not where they need to be overall. And we saw plenty of times where they were still trying to get NJR acclimated to a new system in the NAL. Jesse and I would look at it and go, are they trying to do a Fragger tandem with NJR and Hyper? That's kind of what we expect, given what we know NJR can do. But this is almost like G2 bringing in Cryan. It's just they're not putting people on the roles where they need to be put, and it's incredibly concerning because their results at an international level aren't giving me much confidence right now.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of teams in North America are trying to kind of replicate what TSM did, right? You bring in 5 fraggers, you really do play that more aggressive playstyle. You kind of don't throw roles out the window, but like you bring 5 guys in who are known to frag, and then you let them adjust to those supportive roles. I think that Oxygen went down that route when they took Slash and Bio off of their roster and brought in 2 really young fraggers from Challenger League, Kino and Yaga. And I think Dark Zero tried to do the same thing. I just think they didn't realize that if they gave him a chance, Hot and Cold was also a player that could frag really well. He just never really could shine. So yeah, tough roster move. I think in hindsight, it's hard to justify. The results don't seem great, but hopefully they can make it work and turn it around. If not at SI, later on down the road this year.
All right, you want to smash through these last couple?
Yeah, I believe the next one, FaZe CYCLOPS, you casted this one demo. Do you have any thoughts on this game?
It was a game that was always going to be FaZe's game to win. That was without a doubt. I think they were the favorites going into it prior to, FaZe having 2 losses before this game. CYCLOPS, sure, they managed to beat Liquid. There was that little bit of give or take, hey, they beat the best team, why can't they do it to FaZe now as well? So, there was some expectations, but I don't think it was ever going to be a map which FaZe were going to lose. FaZe, very clean, a 7-2, very, very dominant. The story of CYCLOPS for them is they find the opening picks, but they have no idea what to do on the attacks. They have no idea how to execute. They don't know how to use and abuse that man advantage. And from there, it was very, very easy for FaZe to sit back, relax, and just pick up the kills as they came.
Yeah, I think this rivals the 7-0 from Parabellum for one of the worst performances we've seen in the group stage. I think it's close. I think Parabellum probably did have a worse play, but CYCLOPS played really bad this game. I felt like their lineups were terrible all over the place. There was they had the opportunity to bring Sledge so often, and they'd be like a kitchen defense, and all they have to do was go above. FaZe would literally not play anybody up above, and it would be free real estate. And they just like slowly walk up pantry and just like feed 3 players in one at a time and just get slammed because they're bringing like Twitch and IQ and operators that just, sure, guns, whatever, but like they really needed more utility. I thought their attacks were very, very bad.
Can I request a clip?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, what do you think?
Is this Astro?
This is the Astro, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
my God.
What round is it? Is it round?
This is round 8.
Round 8. Okay, go to round 8, Jacob, and I'll talk you through. Yeah, I'll talk you through what me and Ollie were thinking, because we've seen this and we thought, let's fucking get it. That's pretty much whenever you see the operator lineup, which, Jacob, if you find it, and then you'll be able to see, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. It was a very strange round.
Yes.
Like, very, very weird in terms of what happened, right? So, here you see, look at the operator. Look what Astro's on, Jacob. What are we seeing?
I am concerned about the Amara pick. The teams can use it effectively, but I don't think I've ever seen Brazil use it effectively, so I'm
Jacob,
worried already.
Can you predict what happens real quick? Can you predict what Astro does?
What do you think?
Real quick.
Please tell me he doesn't like Amara right into skull window and get what? Just
interesting prediction.
Does he?
No. So what happens is I was thinking, okay, could go through zombie, could go through 90 window. There's options there. What he decides to do is, you'll actually see it in a minute, right? Astro, not using the what's the actual name for it?
Gara hook?
Gara hook, there you go. It's a grapple hook, yeah. Instead of him going for the window, we were probably thinking, oh, could go up the hatch, right? You have 90 control, you have the hatch. Asher's like, no. I don't play Amaru for the gadget. I play Amaru for the gun, right? So he's sitting here, and all he does, Jacob, is just stand here, right? Hatch is opened. They don't have a fucking Scooby-Doo that he's down here, and you'll see this is a very, very funny moment because I think Anaton's seen the window was open. He's thinking, oh, what's that? And then that happens, right? And he's still downstairs. He's still below. They give him this shit tier kill. I don't know what he was thinking, Garrada. Okay. He's still below. CAG are two men down on the AVG defense. Keep this in mind, Jacob. AVG are top floor bomb site. What do two of them decide to do? Two of them decide to think, oh, hold on a minute. There's the Maru downstairs in the library. Let's send two players downstairs to try and kill him.
Don't send two. No way.
What do you see? Ayagator thinks, okay, I'm going to drop down the hatch. I'm going to go behind him. Black Ray's thinking, hold on a minute. I'll try and hit him on the flank. And I don't mean the podcast. So here he goes, misses the shots, there's no coordination at all. Black Ray comes in, he dies, Astro's there, bang, quad kill.
Why did they send them all downstairs? Just what are you doing? That's a terrible round. This is why I think CAG played this game really poorly. By this point, their mental was gone. They had no hope at this point of winning this game, and yeah, that was the least Amaru play I've seen.
I hope I'm doing a really good imitation of what CAG's mental was like in that moment, because what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, I would call this stupid. I would, on FaZe's part, because the ideology of having somebody pick any op for the gun, I think, in Siege is already kind of temperamental at best. G8's very good, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Amaru could be used for anything else. You could have brought an IQ in this scenario, but you didn't. So you bring an operator solely for the gun. You don't use the gadgetry. You hang out on one floor, and the only reason why you have the performance that you do, the only acceptable reason for doing as well as you do, is solely because the enemy team decides we need to get this guy out of the way as fast as possible, and they send people in off pushes, like not together. No one can get refrags because of where they're like the crossfires don't exist. Like, why?
I do want to touch on FaZe Clan's attacks because they played some really interesting stuff. It didn't seem good on paper, but I don't think they had a fair opponent to actually test it. They didn't run hard breachers they only played 3 attacking rounds. They did have Capitao, who had a hard breach gadget in the can opener, never used it once. There were some really bad takes, I'd say. Round number 7 in particular, their first attacking round was really tough. It was a trophy defense. They had 0 hard breach beside Capitao. They decide, yes, let's send Capitao alone through Boar with Kit, enter Boar window, and die immediately into sight. That was a questionable one for me. Yeah. Ultimately, I think the poorer plays came from CAG, but FaZe Clan played some really interesting and unique and bad on paper strategies on attack.
FaZe had the 5-1 lead though, so they could afford to do stuff like that.
Exactly, and I hope we see FaZe on Villa again, because I want to see that against a better team, like a team that's not already throwing, because that's it's interesting. I want to know if it would work.
I want to see that kind of thing, but I also want it to be done when FaZe Clan themselves are not throwing, because when they had that C9 performance and very clearly at the very end decided that they weren't going to take those last couple of rounds very seriously. Give me a matchup where, on paper we kind of expect it to be really good, maybe cross regional, so it's not like FaZe Furia Phase 1, maybe it's Phase G2, I think. No, that's already happened. How many other teams do they still have left? Give me a better matchup for them to test it out on. Yeah, they should have 3. We are looking at
probably the best one.
Yeah, that's actually the only other time that they face an opponent that isn't already Brazilian. So, okay, yeah, maybe that exact thing you mentioned can come out in that game. But good lord, take your W phase. At that point, you deserve it, because they're CAG, mother of God. Also, at this point, I do kind of agree with the point that Demo made when we were talking about G2 earlier. I do think that because of that result and the fact that CAG still have a very high hill to climb with the games that they have coming up next, like Empire 1 and BDS, I think at this point it's probably set in stone that they are going to get knocked out in groups. I don't think G2 is going to fall that far, especially because of that tiebreaker. So I think CAG are done already at this point.
yeah. Tag look rough.
No argument to the contrary? All right, cool. Yep. There's really nothing else that we can say about that. All right, my last game, we had DZ trying to find a way to recover a little bit from how they played against Team 1 on Oregon, but if you look at the graphic, I think it's pretty fair to say they lost this game in the ban phase. That's Coastline, and that's a 3-7 scoreline. This is also where I'm going to touch on how Dark Zero decided to mess around with the rules a little bit. I did think it was incredibly confusing that they decide to put Skies on Hard Breach over Mint. I'm not saying that this is a role that Skies can't play, but he's had probably one of the better individual performances on Dark Zero from day 1 to day 2. Like, in their game against Empire, he was a massive reason for why they were able to retake a consulate bomb plant on basement, which is something that almost never happens. It's the hardest retake in the game, but Skies had a field day trying to get that done. He had plays against BDS on Cafe. He knows where to frag out, but instead he's been put on Hard Breach. And as far as I am aware, like, Mint was playing other roam heavy ops. He wasn't doing something like conducive to how he was playing in the NAL. And this goes back to DZ still trying to figure out like how they're going to play. What's their identity going to look like? And overall, it still did feel like they were lost. Combine that with the fact that DZ is a team that you kind of think is going to play a more, I guess, like bigger strategic maps that aren't very known for being frag fests, yet they still like to go to maps. In this case, like Coastline, and you're doing it against the best LATAM team that most people had pegged at the top of the standings in Brazil. And it just seemed like Liquid were right at home and DZ were fumbling like the bag at the last second where they don't need to be. And again, it's just questionable. Like, Mint was the opening death on so many rounds. If we pull the stats up, I'm pretty sure his is, what's it at? -6.
What?
Yeah, and the man's playing Jackal. So
that's bad. That's a bad entry stat.
That's abysmal.
Wow.
There isn't a redeeming quality about this game overall in my mind for Dark Zero. This was shit.
Yeah, I think I did look at my spreadsheet. Skies did not play Hard Breach for even a single round inside of Stage 1. Now, that doesn't include the final playday because I'm lazy and haven't updated my stats for the final playday yet. And I even tried to check it on CGG, but their servers are overloaded because too many people care about stats. So, last game doesn't count, but I think that yeah, that is an interesting role change. I think Coastline is like, it surprises me that they lost so badly on Coastline. I had this conversation with Crux, and DC's like historically a really good Coastline team. I think like you might think, oh, you know, they're a structured team and Coastline's like a more frag heavy team, but like Dark Zero break that mold and pretty consistently in the past have been dominant here on Coastline. And so it's shocking that they go to one of their best maps and they don't even get more than 3 rounds and have such a poor performance. It definitely speaks to some sort of internal issue, whether that's on the roles, whether that's on the communication. Again, I'm not sure, I didn't see these games, but there's definitely something going on here. It's a major problem for Dark Zero that they need to fix pretty quick here. Time's running out.
Yeah. This is concerning. I think there are only so many things that you can pull from NAL trends for an international competition, especially when we had a good, 5 weeks to figure out what this team was going to do with themselves. And adding a new player in, I always say this every time there's a roster move, it changes your team status from being really good, really bad, or somewhere kind of in the middle to just being a question mark, because you're not necessarily certain how they're going to be integrated into a brand new squad with guys that they've literally never played with before. In NJR's case, he's not played with these guys in a professional setting at all. So when you're looking at how they can make the adaptation with a new player, it means that it's going to take a little time for them to finally have an actual mold, and you have confidence that they will do well or no confidence based on how that roster change goes. And for DZ, it's honestly still a question mark. I can't even call them like a really good or a really bad team with NJR because he has his bright moments, but by that same token, it's almost like the things that are being done around NJR, like what role Mint is playing, what Skies is doing. Like, the only real consistent thing about this is that Hyper is expected to get kills, and Eclipse is still probably one of the best damn flank watch players we've ever seen in Siege, period. And those are the only real things that remain constant with DZ. Everything else is in flux, and that does not give confidence in this roster change overall. Like, I'm pretty sure every time DZ fans look at something that they've messed up over the past couple of weeks, they look at that and go, Hot and Cold wouldn't have made that mistake. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the mindset going, why would you drop Hot and Cold? because things clearly don't seem like they're working right now.
Just to bring back to Jesse's point about DZ being a good team in Coastline, is those statistics just from this year of NAL?
That goes like beyond into last year mostly. That's not even really based on statistics. That's like, I mean, it is stats, but it's also based on like scrim results apparently.
Whenever I think of DZ and Coastline, I just think of that's the map that they lost to Navi in Japan finals. Like that's one that always sticks out for me.
Fair enough.
I think I have to agree with Jacob. Like I don't know why they're playing Coastline. Coastline for me is a bit of a shithouse map. Shithouse is a term that UK people use whenever it's like a really like luck-based, 0 IQ kind of like something that happens. You know, like Makers shithouse in a victory to TSM. That kind of like term. So I think a map like Coastline is very shithousery. I think it's a map which favors like people who just want to kill. I think Liquid, especially with the Nesk form that he's currently on, that was a very bad mistake. And I think they suffered for it. Look at Nesk. I mean, 18 kills, like Jesus Christ. Yeah, I think just the map bans for NA. I think also in Group B, map bans for NA has been very, very bad.
So far. I can say it's a little bit less than ideal, other than just the obvious. Please don't pick Consulate, like the rest of the world is kind of begging NA to not do right now. Yeah. For me, this was probably the single most questionable thing that DZ has done from a ban phase perspective thus far. Even if you can't take them to more, I guess, not frag fests, and you like. I don't understand why you would want to subject yourself to playing a Brazilian team in the Danger Donut. It simply doesn't make sense to me.
I guess for the map stats, just put it out there. Since the start of the NAL, since the start of Season 1 of the NAL, they're 5-3 in official competitions on Coastline. So, like, it's not, like, crazy dominant, but it has been a good map for them in the past. And so, yeah, I think it is still shocking that they played so poorly on it against
Can we
Liquid.
find an extra point for Nesk? Just an extra 0.1 rating?
So we can get it too.
Poor guy.
Please.
Man.
Please.
Maybe his rating is different on the SPR thing that Super and Jobro have been cooking up. Maybe he's got a higher rating there. We'll find out.
I got Jobro on my stream for the first day, and I got to look through all of that, and it was holy shit. The stats the Sonics have is
it one of those cases where you're envious of someone else's spreadsheets again, Jesse?
Yeah, like I could work on my spreadsheet for probably 10 years and I wouldn't really have.
I don't know how you guys
like
do the spreadsheet stuff. Like I'm terrible. I don't know. Like Jake, what do you like with spreadsheets? Are you a fan or are you more of a? Oh, hey, I'll take that. That'll do me.
I'm a fan from a functionality standpoint, but I'm also the kind of stickler that when I do my spreadsheets, I do data entry very manually and I don't fuck with formulas very often, which I know for Jesse is probably like a crime.
I'm too stupid
for ease of
understand
access.
it.
But
yeah, like all I can say is big, massive shout out to Dev Marta and also CG.
Genuinely, yeah.
Like the stuff that I've been able to use because I'm not the biggest stat guy. Like, that's one thing I don't really focus on too much in my cast. I'm much more of, like, a storyline kind of guy, where I kind of, like, build up, oh, yes, these were here, now they're there. That's the kind of area I like to focus on, so stats isn't really my biggest point, but I must say, like, the prep work that those guys have done to help me out has been massive.
Credit where credit is due. The spreadsheet gods, I'm happy that they're running the shindig. Didn't Dev also make a spreadsheet like publicly available for people to like track map stats on too or something?
God knows what he has public. God knows.
All right, you want to close out the A stream? You had the last game of the day on the lung shift.
Yeah, One versus Furia. These are the two teams out of Brazil that I think people weren't expecting to do very well and have both, I think, popped off to be two of the most successful teams. Furia, again, I think Furia have a tough schedule ahead of them. I think it's realistic that they go 0-4 on their last 4 games. But Team One, I think, were the better team. They came out and went strong.
Yeah.
They started 4-0 in this game on defense. I thought Furia's takes were really stalling out. They'd lose a player and they would just slow to a halt. And that was tough to watch. I think there was some cool stuff. I don't know if you noticed this Alamau on a Rooney play. It was a CEO defense, and he reinforced the wall, went to the other side, punched open the wall, and put the bulletproof camera inside the wall, like where the reinforcement is,
a lot.
and then surrogated over the wall. which was like, I've never seen that before.
I see on Coastline Hook of Billards where they would have like the connector wall. Like people would like punch that out and then put the bulletproof in there. I see that quite a bit. So yeah, it's definitely something that's becoming much more of a trend.
Yeah, I've never seen that in North America, so that was really cool to see coming out from the Latin American team. And then when they swapped half, I thought on defense, Furia looked a lot better. I thought that was an even half where both teams played really well. High-level game, some great roaming coming from Furia. Their drone denial was fantastic. Team 1 had some really good coordination. Not zero mistake rounds, but overall, I thought that second half when Furia didn't have to attack, both teams played at a very high level. It was just that first half that I think Furia struggled a little bit.
If I can go back, I'm trying to remember, a good friend, Geometric Electric, who casts down in LATAM, did mention this game might seem innocent, but in Brazil, these two guys played on Chalet and went all the way to max OT, constantly exchanging rounds. One played faster, but also fell to strong anchor positions from Furia. It was insane then, and it will be insane now. Kind of disappointed in that scoreline, I'm not gonna lie. She can hype that up as much as she wants, and I think on paper this was probably for me the number 5 LATAM team, the number 6 LATAM team, simply because of where I had them ranked. So overall, I did figure it would be pretty even. But the fact that Team 1 are surprising as much as they have been this tournament is just the trend just continues. And Furia kind of fallen by the wayside with 2 players not being able to catch up is a little depressing.
Yeah, I think the thing is with the game that happened in BR6 is that Furia were really hitting their form. They were on fire. That's whenever we see the best Furia just all of a sudden explode. Whereas I think Team 1 over the past couple of months, they're the ones who've hit the stride. They are the ones who are on form now, and they've really shown that today. I think just overall, there wasn't too many defining characteristics, big reasons of why Team 1 won this game or why Furia lost it. It was just overall, Team 1 were the better team. There's not much else you can do from an analysis standpoint. It was just everyone on Team 1 was playing a lot better than their counterparts. So, yeah, more or less that was the story.
All right, we got through the day. Unless there's anything else you want to mention about Team 1 Furia, because I think that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think that summed it up pretty well. Team 1 played better.
Okay. We're sitting at about an hour and 45 minutes or so for the moment. We can go over stuff for predictions, though I don't think we've got this built out for 3 people unless Freme wants to find a way to do that. Freme, you tell me. What are you thinking? Do we want to...
To be fair, I need to do my predictions to be put on stream tomorrow, so I actually might do that with you guys, if that's okay.
Yeah, might as well.
We'll talk it through, because why
Even
not?
if we can't have a graphic for it, it would be fun just to do it. Verbally.
Yeah.
Let me
Might
see.
As well.
Where's the spreadsheet? So many spreadsheets.
We didn't prep the screen to have demo on cam. Oh no. Wait.
Too many spreadsheets.
Can you take his VMix thing and put it up in the top right where it would have been if it was his profile picture? If we shove it up there. Let's see. Oh. Yeah, there we go.
There he is. Perfect.
What is that picture of you? So hello? Jacob, is that you? Surely not. That's not you.
That's me when I was 17. That? Yeah, that's no cap. Wait, hold on.
That is great. That is a great picture. God, that is funny. God.
It's pretty goddamn terrifying. All right. So we are making the switch. We were talking everything about Group A for the stuff from today, but we're moving into the stuff for tomorrow. And when it goes up on YouTube, we'll see exactly how wrong we are on everything. But considerable amount of games less. It's only 5 games on A stream, 4 games on B stream, so a pretty light day. You said for you, this is pretty late for you because you don't have to worry about getting up nearly as early, right, Demo?
I think I have a 2 p.m. start, so I'm loving life.
Let's go. All right. NIP, MIBR, we'll just start from the top and work our way down. On paper, for me, NIP, because they are currently undefeated in their group, are looking pretty damn good. And MIBR kind of made some very questionable plays. That TSM game certainly is no exception from them. MIBR is still kind of in contention right now, but I do think NIP takes the step.
Okay, I'm gonna hard disagree with you. I think the NIP played some pretty bad teams in their first day, and they overall look like a bad team themselves based on what I saw from them going into things. So I definitely think MIBR are the favorites in this one. For my take, I'm gonna take MIBR.
I'm gonna go NIP. I think I'm a big fan of Pino and Muzi. I think on their day, them two are one of the strongest powerhouse duos we have across every region. So I am kind of banking, thinking that them two will have a good day. And if it is, I don't know what MIBR can do to stop them two.
All right, for me, is there a chance to slap the logo up on there, or is that asking too much? It won't work? Okay, no problem. Not a big deal. So just remember what Demo's got, and then just like scribble it in. Demo, you can't go back on any of your predictions.
No, I never do. I never do.
All right, you want to start with Giants and Makers then?
Me? Or
that's for you,
me?
Dempster.
Oh,
yeah.
Right, okay.
Come on.
Right, well, first of all, this is Makers only play one game tomorrow, which is quite sad. But then I think they have like 3 matches to play for on the final day. So yeah, only the one game against Giants, who have looked pretty weak. I mean, to be fair, Giants maybe had the potential to snag the NIP victory, but SSG, I talked to Gig, that game doesn't exist. That they don't care about that game. Okay, so but Makers, like, what I cannot praise this team enough. What this team has managed to achieve is unheard of. The fact that they came in through the open qualifier, they beat 5 EUL teams, and it wasn't like a close, it was clean. Like, it was decisive that they beat those 5 EUL teams, and they came into this competition. Ollie has thought, this team has no chance. They're not beating TSM. They're not doing any of this. Every single caster put down TSM would beat Makers, except for me. I'm telling you, this team has something about them. Akwi, unbelievable what he was doing in the entries. Gemini, the playmaker, the Iniesta of Siege right now. Unbelievable what this little team has done, and they're only going to get better. I'm telling you, they're only going to get better. Is Giants going to be that much of an opponent to them with the current form that they're on? I would say probably not. Giants are going to be really up against it. So I have to stick with my guns, and I have to say Makers.
Okay. Jacob,
that speech convinced me.
That
Did it convince you? I can't really follow it up. I'll just say Makers and let you tap the floor.
I don't think he really needed to convince me because before the tournament started, I predicted that Giants would be the one and only team to not win a game, and I'm going to stick with that. So I'll go Makers here. I've got a much less passionate view of Makers. I think they're solid. They're okay. They're all right. Not amazing. Not terrible. They'll probably finish middle of the group, and that puts them over Giants in my book.
One thing I will say, RVP in chat, I apologize. He's not the Iniesta. He is the Pirlo of Siege. Apologies to the Italian fan base. I don't know if you guys will get that reference. Probably not.
I don't offhand. But
the only
thing
you guys know is like Tom Brady. I don't know what Canadian hockey is. Jesse, I don't know what that is. Like, I have no idea. Is it figure skating is the national sport of hockey? I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, I think Makers for me has to be. Like, there's no way. All right. If
you're making European sports references, I'm just gonna politely back out and not say anything incriminating or embarrassing. Jesse, do you want to start with NIP Parabellum?
I would love to predict Parabellum. I really would, but I feel like I'm lying to myself if I do. I gotta pick NIP for this one.
Traitor.
This is one of those situations where Parabellum could surprise, but if they were going to do it against anybody, I don't think that against NIP on their first game of the day is really going to be where they find success. They simply can't scrap up against Pino when he's on fire, so it's another NIP win for me. Demo, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's tough to kind of overlook NIP. Parabellum, pretty bad day at the office for the first day. I mean, that 7-0 to Oxygen really says it all. So, yeah, I think if you're a betting man, you're putting down your money in NIP. But hey, it's SI. You have no idea.
Crazier things have happened, and Parabellum is certainly a team that's got skill, but they do have 2 more games on the docket, so we'll get to those in a hot minute. Giants TSM, I am kind of in the same boat with Jesse and thinking the Giants are not really going to win, honestly, on really any game. Like, it's kind of a toss-up for what games they can or can't do. But for TSM's sake, they clubbed MIBR. I think their performance against Makers is just them kind of running into the Makers train at the wrong second, so it's not they are fallen by the wayside by any stretch of the imagination. So TSM, for their first game of the day, especially coming off of a Giants loss to Makers, should be able to shatter the Singaporeans a little bit more.
Yep. I already told you what I'm gonna predict for Giants, so we're gonna keep that consistent. TSM.
Yeah, TSM for me as well. I think Even though Makers did manage to pull a win off TSM, I think that's probably a wake-up call. TSM are going to go into this game. They're not going to let that happen again. They're not going to lose to a team which they should be beating, and I think they'll be ready for anything that Giants has, 100%.
Thank you, Ferme, for already filling in Parabellum over Giants. Saving some time. It's efficient. I like that.
He's getting out of the curve. Demo, MIBR Space Station, your call.
Oh, sticky one. Big fan of MIBR. I think with the potential they have, I think Lukid is a very, very talented player. But SSG, again, reigning world champions defending their title, that has to give them a bit of morale. Canadian, he's never left, he's still there. So I think SSG. I think I'm going to go with North American side.
Jesse?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you just said. I do like MIBR as a team. I think they're very good. I think they'll probably finish top 4, maybe. But I think Space Station are better, and they've got Troy. They should win.
I'm in the same boat. MIBR has a lot of skill that's going to take them very far over the course of the playoffs. Though for Space Station, even in a loss to who was it? I'm trying to remember who they lost to. It wasn't OXG. It was TSM. That's what they were playing. Yeah. That was their one loss yesterday, and even in defeat, I still think that was just kind of where they were figuring things out, like their first actual comp setting aside from a scrim with Troy back in the lineup. And if they can figure out like how they want to reincorporate Ying again with Troy back on the team, then maybe they'll find more success. MIBR can play hyper aggressive, but if Fultz shows up and Rampy does what he did yesterday, then yeah, should be SSG all the way. OXG, NIP, Jesse, go for it.
Tough one.
I ain't got the slam. I think Oxygen take that one. I think Kino is the better Brazilian, and he will win that out for his not his country, I guess.
I mean, if he wins, he's NA and Brazil kind of incarnate in the same go.
Yeah, this is an important game because if Kino can beat a Brazilian team, all Brazilian fans must cheer for NA. We take them. It's like a...
We do, yeah. We convert them very, very slowly. We won't hear any more Vamos Ninja chants if OXG ends up on what... I just made myself sad with that reference. I'm in the same boat. For OXG, this was already kind of on paper one that I had a little bit more confidence in them in. It's scrappy American team versus scrappy Brazilian, which is just kind of how Brazil has always played. And for the longest time, I have made the reference that OXG and then Reciprocity before them were kind of the closest thing from a playstyle point of view that NA has had to a LATAM playstyle. Even if it's not exactly the same thing, it still is kind of outlandish to a point that you can really, really catch a team like NIP by surprise, especially since they're not as aggressive of a region as they kind of stereotypically used to be. So I think OXG.
This is a really tough one for me because I look at it from Oxygen, very, very strong. Yeah, finishing first inside of NAL. The big push for them this event is can they finally break away from being the other team out of like NA, because you always think of SSG, TSM, and DZ ahead of them. 100%. I think that was like a big drive for them. Obviously, they've got like the honeymoon effect with the 2 new players coming in who have played very, very well so far. And then on the other hand, you have NIP. Obviously, runners-up. We have to respect that they had runners-up last year. But currently, this season of BR6 and Indicop Elite 6, they've underperformed massively. NIP did come into this, and I mean, their day one was pretty good, like very, very strong. So, I mean, they've got a good start on this. Is it going to be enough to beat Oxygen? Oh, what am I saying? I don't.
Do you need a coin? I can pull one up.
I'm gonna go Ninjas. I'm gonna go NIP. I think they're looking good right now. I think they've got fun behind them.
I think it definitely can swing either way. So
it's a 50-50. It's a toss-up. Either team could take it 100%.
I sympathize with you. I totally do. Yeah. So we'll just see what ends up happening. I have no clue.
All right.
I'll open up Parabellum SSG.
Just skip this one. We know what's happening.
Just
skip it.
I'll keep it very short. Parabellum, no. Sorry. Thank you for
nice.
Thanks for coming.
No, give it to SSG for me. Give it to SSG for Jesse. Demo, anything you think could turn things around or no?
No.
All right.
Parabellum win my heart. That's what they win.
Yeah.
True. We'll have you open up with OXG versus TSM. Then give us your thoughts as a non-NA boy on how NA teams are going to do.
Well, there's a big one. I mean, Oxygen again. I think this game will depend on how Oxygen do against NIP. I think that's the big thing going into this game. Because if OXG come off with a win against NIP, the confidence they're going to have will be infectious. But if they suffer a loss, things ain't looking too good. Especially like TSM versus Giants. You would expect TSM to take that, so they'll feel pretty good going into that game nonetheless. Again, it's one of those toss-ups. If OXG have a good day, you'd fancy them have the momentum. If they don't, TSM take it, I think, pretty clearly. I think I'll go TSM, because obviously I backed NIP beating OXG, so I think by that logic, I'll have to go TSM.
From a solely NAL point of view, I love the matchup on paper, but also I do think that TSM's results through stage 1 of the NAL definitely wasn't conducive to like the raging confidence that most people in NA have and like how they were going to do on an international stage once LANs came back. But TSM for me still had more disappointments overall because of their late game decision making. I think so far through the games that they've played yesterday, that wasn't necessarily a massive deal, but it's still kind of something that lives rent free in the back of my head. And OXG can definitely play spoiler to TSM's chances of placing like number 1, number 2 in this group. And I think because of how much of a toss-up this game is, I'll take OXG simply because if they get disruptive very, very early on, TSM might not be able to forge a comeback as quickly as most people expect. So I'll take Oxygen.
I think for these two, I don't know who's the better team between TSM and Oxygen, but I have considerably more confidence that TSM will perform here at the Invitational, you know, with 5 players that have been here. They've done this before. I'm going to pick TSM in this one. I think Oxygen, again, are a good team, but I think Kino had a bit of a rougher performance against MIBR. Overall, I didn't love Oxygen in their game against MIBR, so I'm going to take TSM here. I think they do make more sense, but that's a close one.
In the last game that we kind of have to stomach, but believe it or not, is closer than most people would think, that Jesse has already predicted Parabellum to win. That's the Giants in Parabellum. And I'm going to take the different stance on this one. I'm going to say Giants. I think Parabellum was not going to be the team in my mind that would win anything. They were going to be last in their group. They weren't going to make it out of groups. They were going to be gone very quickly. This honestly comes more down to a team cohesion and support staff thing. I think everybody who plays for Parabellum is good, but everyone who plays in Singapore on Giants has had more time to work together as the package that they are. They have a coach who's been with them, who came over from a Pro League championship winning Na'Vi squad to kind of help turn some things around. And if they can kind of go against the grain of sucking in the late game and only succeeding in the early game, if they were going to do it against any team, it was going to be Parabellum. So this game on paper is super, super close, but especially given the showing that Parabellum had in their first 2 games so far, and the fact that we very clearly don't have any confidence in how they'll do against other big shots, for me, this is the one game Giants are going to win.
Yeah, I think I agree with Jacob. This is the game that will probably decide who gets eliminated, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I think Giants, you have to favor them. Parabellum, just a little bit out of their depth for this level of competition. I think they're lacking the experience. I think it's clear to see. What are they? The second lowest in terms of like ratings off like stand, or like where they stand in terms of international siege. Their only CL, the only team below them is Makers, who do not play like a tier 3 team. Let's just put it out there first of all. Makers are playing at level off a tier 1 team. I don't think Parabellum are living up to what Makers have been able to achieve.
Yeah, I do want to agree with a lot of your points. I think your analysis is pretty spot on, but somebody's got to pick Parabellum for at least one match, and that's got to be me.
Hey, I believe in Makers, Jesse. You believe in Parabellum. You can do it.
I'll take this hat.
All right. Well, real quick, everyone smile at the camera for predictions, because Furman's going to take a screenshot and probably put it on Twitter somewhere. 3.
Thank God
2,
I'm not here.
1. Yeah, you are here. Your webcam's bigger than either of the 2 of us, so.
Don't worry, mine get to be shown on the main fucking broadcast, so if I fuck up, God.
You've got way more pressure. Yep. All right, we're sitting at right around 2 hours, so if we do Q&A, let's go ahead and make it quick. We'll probably confine it to about 10 minutes. So chat, if there is any burning question that you had, whether it be from something you couldn't ask us from earlier in the day, something you want to ask Demo, who currently is in France working the event, anything in particular, go ahead and drop it. Give us it. We'll answer a couple for about 10 minutes. Give us good ones, though.
Do makers have any shot at top 4?
Yes.
Of the group or of the whole event?
Honestly, I think the entire event.
Really?
Wow. Okay.
I'm telling you, like, this team, because I think the thing with this team going into the event was it's a make or break, right? Whenever it's a team who a lot of accusations around them whenever they qualified for Invite originally, that's you know, your team must be pretty good. Like if you're getting accusations. Now they're on LAN, right? You can't say they're hacking on this one, right? They're still playing the same way as what they did. Yeah, they're still showing up. It's still that same makers.
Right.
For makers now that they have that confidence, I think it is going to put a bit of fear behind everyone, because at the end of the day, if you're getting beat by makers, that's a lot of pressure on like a tier 1 team. If you're losing to this team who isn't even inside tier 2, that's so much pressure to worry about. Because I always think mental game is a massive, massive part of Siege.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I think top 4 in the group is doable. I think top 4 at the event is not realistic for makers. And again, like, I'm basing
that would be me drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much to expect them to get top 4 in the whole thing. Yeah.
If you're committing Jacob, do it right.
I've seen.
I mean, fair play, and we also didn't have expectations for them at all aside from their their EUQ performance. But still, if you're gonna commit, go big or go home, which I respect, even if in some cases it's fucking ridiculous to assume that they'd go that far. Anyway. People said the same thing about 4s, so I guess I should.
That's another reason why
I definitely can't.
That's another reason is because the similarities between 4s and makers is you cannot get any closer. Teams exactly the same, weren't inside of CL, just incredible, and you can definitely paint the exact same picture happening again.
Let's see what else we got. Do you think Alemo is going to get picked up by an NA or an EU team after Invite? I saw a little bit of conversation around this on Twitter after all of Team 1's games were done. If I'm perfectly honest, no, because the state of Brazilian Siege, by comparison to NA and EU, is very fast, very loyal, very strong. Like the commitment that players and teams have to their players is very ride or die, and they very often choose to ride, and they will have players, on their squad for very long, like extended periods of time. If an NA or an EU team came calling for him with a big enough offer, I think they'd probably consider it. But Alemo's draft stock has done nothing but go up because of this event, and a lot more people from around the world are beginning to see what this guy is capable of doing. But it's also a comms issue at the end of the day. If he does nothing but speak Brazilian or like common Brazilian, the idea of him getting picked up by a team and needing to transfer over to English probably isn't the most exciting prospect in the world, so teams might just decide it's not really worth the hassle and just work with what they've got from their own region.
I have a good point in that as well, because it's something that I know that me and Ollie have discussed before as well, and that is one thing I've always seen about these international transfers, and there's only been a few of them inside of Siege.
Right.
What, 4? I think there's only been 4, right? You have Alphama, who has been everywhere, okay?
Yep.
His stint in NA, it was okay. His stint in APAC, okay, right? It wasn't like groundbreaking. It's not as if it's like a massive, massive thing for the team that he went to. You look at the first ever one, which was your Comfy Staaben. Did it work out? Yep. No. Right? And finally, you look at your Virtue, which has probably had the biggest success rate, but as of late, he hasn't been playing the greatest. These players that you take out of their own regions, they're not performing the same way they did. Obviously, I just talked about Virtue. I think, like, we haven't seen Virtue hit the levels that he was whenever he was a Fnatic. Like, I think you can definitely say that. Like, we haven't seen the same Virtue who was killing everyone at these international events. It hasn't been the same. I think if you take somebody out of their comfort zone, and like, I mean, moving to a new country, a new region is crazy for anyone. I don't care where you come. Everyone loves their own home. Like, that's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think I agree. There was a time like a year ago where we started to see a bunch of Europeans come in and fill up the NAL, right? And it seemed like we were going to see like this League of Legends situation where half of the league is just imports, and imports run the world, and it's just North Americans are just cheering for the Europeans that rep NA colors. But like, look at the 4 Europeans.
That worked really well for Sloppy.
Yeah, like Sloppy got cut.
Oh, forgot about Sloppy. Yeah,
of course you did. Of course you did.
Oh,
because
God,
he did
bad.
nothing and it was a bust.
I mean, the point still stands. Yeah,
it does. Like Sloppy got cut, Slub and Gonfi got cut, and then Alfama got relegated. You know, like lost a spot in the league. So it's like none of those players found success. All of them are, you know, out of North America now, and we have a fully, relatively like a fully NA league. So it's like I don't think imports have been successful. I think they could be successful, but I think it's a bit of a stretch to think that Alamau might get picked up by an international team.
Unless the offer's big enough and they're kind of willing to stomach it, yeah, I don't really see it happening.
I mean, we'll see how the Pengu. Oh, I can't say that. Yeah, obviously that's been like a rumor that's floating around, but yeah.
Oh man.
Let's see. I see people in here who are asking for Spawny back. People that I recognize from my chat. Spawny's asleep, so unfortunately, I don't want to wake her to bring her back. I apologize.
Which region is winning?
I'm inclined to say Latin America, just kind of off the cuff.
God, I'm kind of inclined to say EU just because BDS.
All right, I'm gonna say North America because I'm a fanboy.
Yeah, right. So he's tired. You need to go to bed.
Contractually obligated. Oh boy. Do you think G2 just tries to go through lower bracket or for easy run? So I did mention this a little bit before. If it truly is a big brain play on Shas's part to say we're not going to reveal anything for groups and only bring things out like through a lower bracket run, do something miraculous and then get to the grand final down by a map, I think that could be the story of G2 and the story of Siege for the next year. I don't think it's going to happen though.
You're coping.
It's not.
This is not a play.
Yeah,
this is not intentional.
Theories.
That's you looking for any reassurance you can find, which I understand, but no, it's not going to happen.
And also, you don't want to be in the lower bracket because the way I look at it is, if you're in the lower bracket, you have to then prep for 2 teams, and potentially one of those teams you don't even play. Like, because you need to see how the upper bracket works before you find your opponent. Like, that's not good for any team because then you have to prep double. Where if you're in the upper bracket, and you know you're going to keep winning your games, you prep for like 1 team a match, and then by the time you finish, I'm pretty sure it's like 4 games. If you win 4 games in the upper bracket, you're in the grand final. Like, that's how easy it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the lower bracket, you literally play more games. You don't know exactly which team you're going to be facing, and you have 1 life.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like, if you get into the upper bracket, at least like if you lose your first one, you're just in the lower bracket.
It's going to be perhaps the most insurmountable odds for G2, because I think, agreed, they are going to be in a lower bracket. They're not going to get knocked out in groups. But it's going to be probably the single hardest challenge I think you could possibly have in an international competition. World stage pressure, 1 life, more games to play, and you are underperforming based on where everyone thought you were going to be. Like, yeah, nothing bodes well. Absolutely nothing bodes well about this for G2.
I will say, to give a little bit of copium to the G2 fan that are reaching in chat.
You have to give them some, fine.
Well, I mean, if anybody's going to make a lower bracket run, it probably is the team that had high expectations and have, for all intents and purposes, been throwing in the group stage. I think there's a chance they turn it around. If anybody does it, I think G2 turns it around.
Oh, sorry. I was.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, the thing is with like from my perspective, if G2 managed to pull off like a miracle lower bracket run and win the whole thing, like in terms of like my mind with storylines, like fuck SI 2018, fuck that shit. Like that's done now. This is the story that you want.
Sorry, G2, just not your year.
Is it best of 3 in upper and lower brackets? I have to imagine yes.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is where the fun begins. That's what we all want, is the best of 3s. Which, to be fair, like some of the the games so far, you would want to see like more maps, which has been very good. Someone's asked how the food is in France. Pretty good. Can't complain.
They asked Caliber Jacob that demo actually, so please stop over.
Well, he's asked demo how's it for the tags Jacob. I don't know if Jacob speaks for me. I don't know.
Jacob, how is the food in Paris? Please tell us.
The food in Paris is great. The one time I was in Paris, I had pizza with blue cheese and thought it was weird. So I was only there for a layover.
Fuck, dude, I want to go to Paris.
We'll get there eventually. What do you think of the SSG storyline with Canadian? I love it.
Yeah, Very good.
I always like the idea of like a champion coming back to have one more slugfest. Ultimately, I don't know if he's going to come back after this SI is done, and even if he doesn't, to have one more really good performance and like a showing with his old team is still it's a very emotional time for SSG fans and for NA fans kind of overall. Again, I don't know if he's going to end up staying on with the team after SI is done. I think that will probably depend on whether or not they like go far in like playoffs, or maybe they win the whole thing. Maybe he'll decide to stick around and come back. Maybe he finds some more motivation to stick around. But the storyline in the current context right now is that we know that this might very well be his last ride, whereas for most players, we don't really know when they're going to retire. We don't know when their time is up. So we can kind of look at this and be like, we are living in the best of times, because this might be the last we see of Troy. So
he's been pretty adamant, has he not, that this is like his final hurrah? Like, I think he definitely does want to go. Like he like, this was like a very extreme circumstance for SSG to actually have him come back.
True. Yeah.
So
I think
I think like, yeah.
I think in his tweet longer he said he mentioned if it was like a possibility, and he just said he didn't know how he was going to feel after the event. But I don't think he ruled it out that he'd come back.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily putting a whole bunch of stock in the idea that he will, especially when I think Unit has put on Twitter saying that they'll go and buy anybody. I know he was retweeting the CS complexity meme from their CEO saying like I'll pay out anyone's buyout, but I do still believe that SSG have the ability to go and grab anybody that they want. And if some of the rumors I'm hearing backstage are true in terms of who they're looking at, they might not even need Troy to come back. So we'll see.
Who's the LATAM team with the most chances of winning it all? I think Liquid have to be the clear favorites there.
That's not even a safe pick either. That's Liquid all the way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no surprise.
All right, let's go for one more, chat. Give us one more really good one.
Liquid look bad? Okay, stop.
Okay, bro, sure.
Oh, that's a good one. What teams from Group A and B would you like to see face off? Obviously, we haven't, like, the groups have stayed in their own little thing, and then we start getting into like the two groups combining. A matchup I'd love to see. God, there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Oh God, this is tough. I think you'd love to see like a BDS go up against like a TSM.
Yeah, of course.
I think that would be one heck of a match.
Yeah.
I'll amend that a little bit. I think probably one of the most underrated matchups that we saw from SI 2020, a game that no one cared about when they should have, was BDS NIP. NIP would obviously go on to win that one because it was playoffs, but that game was a 3-map banger. And for me, I'm very, very excited at the potential of that rematch.
Yeah, I'm going to go a completely different direction because I said on stream today when I was watching the games that this was a game I wanted to see. I want to see CYCLOPS versus Parabellum. Because I think these two teams play very strange Siege, and it would be a fun game. It would be a fun game.
Where are you seeing that game? In your head, in your dreams?
Yeah, my nightmare is more like it.
Never fail to impress me, Jesse. Never fail.
Well, we're looking at the ones that we know, like out of the gate, are like very high profile, high risk, high reward kind of things, and then there's Jesse scraping the bottom of the barrel for something that also would probably be a good game in its own.
I just think also Makers versus anyone really in Group A. Like you just want to see what Makers do next, don't you? I think that's like a big thing for them. Is like everyone wants to see more of this team.
Give me the Empire versus Makers game, and let's see who wins that fight.
To be fair, both of those teams have like very similar stories because Empire were also a team that came out of nowhere, also had accusations against them. Like, so yeah, a lot of comparisons.
All right, 2 hours and 15 minutes later, we are here. We are going to have a considerably much shorter show tomorrow because it starts 4 hours later. Jesse and I can actually go off and get some proper sleep. Demo, thanks for phoning in all the way from Paris, France. Go ahead, say your last piece, shill your Twitter, whatever it might be. The floor is yours, my dude.
Yeah, it's been great. I really enjoyed myself. I get to come on here and really, just speak about stuff. Obviously, we get like a set amount of matches, so I don't get to see all of them. I don't get to speak about all of them. So it's good to get this opportunity to come on and just talk about Siege. I can't really complain. Obviously, come watch the streams tomorrow. Both streams going on again. We've got B group for you guys. We've got some really good matches. I think I'm on B stream all day. I think I only get to cast one match tomorrow. I think I get Oxygen Nip. So, I mean, it's a pretty damn good game
Not
to
bad,
get.
yeah.
And then all the other games, I think I'm just on like the analyst desk because we've got like a shorter day. We have to give everyone their cast. So I think Kix and Tero get 2 casts tomorrow. So it's just the way it worked out. But I'll be on B stream. We have 4 matches tomorrow. Should be good fun. Keep updating Twitter if you want some memes. I'm still making memes here, which is good. So, you know, yeah, you like memes? I got memes.
And at some point down the road, we'll also have to see which one of your fellow caster colleagues on the SI desk has requested to jump on the show. At some point, I think after the group stage is over.
I'm smelling a Dez.
Oh, you're smelling Dez? You sure? Okay.
Is it not a Dez? No?
I mean, I'm not going to say. I won't give any hints about it, but I do like the possibility of getting Dez on, so we'll see.
Okay, so it's not Dez, right? Okay, good to know.
All right, anyway, Jesse, anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Twitch.tv/JesseJCheck. We're going to be doing more live analysis. It's in chat, by the way. If you need the link, make sure you come check us out. We've got North American League pro players and coaches and analysts stopping by with analysts analysis the next 3 days. We've got amazing guests such as Tommy from Excite Gaming, Hot and Cold from Mirage, and Christian Guerra, also of Mirage. Some fantastic guests. You should come watch and make sure you follow my Twitch channel. Thank you very much.
Please go follow his Twitch, go follow Jesse's Twitter, go follow Demo's Twitter, go follow my Twitter if for some reason you have not gotten the chance to do that, at Democast, at JesseJCheck, at Caliber Jacob. Jesse and I are gonna see what we can't do over the next couple
Jacob,
of days.
Can I have another guess? Is it perhaps my lovely co-caster for this event? Is he coming on the show? Maybe. Ollie,
Maybe.
get on the show. Fucking ask him. He's in the chat. I think he's watched this whole thing. Ollie's been
Is he?
Been fucking great, by the way. Like,
That's him right there.
I've really enjoyed my time with Ollie.
Been,
like,
he has been, yeah.
I cannot fault how much fun we've had, and I did manage to get him to say Pog, unironically today. So I'm making leaps and bounds. Hopefully the Keck dubs come out tomorrow, and we'll keep moving.
It's about as bad as the one time I said Poggy Woggy is on a CL broadcast. The entire stream
that's
went
where I draw
ballistic.
the line.
That's
The line
where
is
that's a little. That's a little far.
I did that because I lost a bet and I just had to. Yeah, that's just it. It genuinely is what it is. Thank you everybody for tuning in for the post show day number 3. We'll be back again tomorrow for the second day of Group B. For Jesse, Demo, and myself, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow night.